All right. I think we are live.
Live waiting.
Okay. Hopefully we're live. It's on the channel we.
Testing. Oh, there's Morgan. Always late.
We are always late. That isn't ish me. Actually, the software was a little weird today. And my headphones, which is why I'm wearing these.
Yeah, thank you for being
Awesome
here,
white ones.
Morgan. You're the best for showing back up.
Yes, thank you.
Did you want to put that up on the
Yes, I do.
on the screen where we can see it?
Boom, boom, boom. All right, cool.
Here we are.
Okay, so today we are looking for any Christians who are interested in talking about why they believe in what they believe. I'm interested to know why they still believe in it.
Or why they ever did.
Or why they ever did. It's interesting that on your screen it's not actually like showing us loading. Back out and back in, maybe. Actually on mine too.
Huh. Morgan, can you see us on the stream?
Oh, here we go. I just backed out and backed in.
Okay, live.
Okay, we're live. It's working.
Cool.
All right, so what do we want to talk about today to get before these Christians come on?
Well, I mean, we can talk about what's the most interesting Bible story you've read about lately.
The most interesting Bible story I've read about, well, besides the bear that destroys the kids, where the bear eats the children because they called Elisha Baldy. That one always comes to mind.
That does come to mind.
But yeah, I would say at this point, I'm just really mostly interested in like why do Christians still believe in something that is like 2,000 years old, but there's been no evidence since then of anything like supernatural, essentially.
So like all these miracles supposedly happened and we believe in this thing, but like there's been no new
Nothing ever
news.
since.
No new news.
Well, and the other interesting thing is that all the interesting new news is usually like they saw, Mary in like toast, or
Right. Or they really believe in a shroud that was found.
yeah,
Not even the shroud, but like a new one. Like,
right.
Oh,
The Shroud of Turin is interesting because like they like figured out like the year that it was made. It was made in like 1400. And they even know like the type of paint that was used at this point. So the problem is like we are like, science has gotten to the point where it's so effective that like we can determine like the type of paint that it was forged with at this point, essentially, which is kind of interesting to me.
We have a new user in the chat. I'm trying to figure out who you are. Max and Messy. Hello, welcome. Are you friendly?
Or if you're a Christian, we would like to hear why you still believe. Got called out. That's cool. We're hoping to have like some good civil conversations. Genuinely interested in why people still hold on to this faith when really there's really been nothing since. Yes, so friendly. I assume.
Cool. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here.
Also, if need be, we can also accept people if they have questions or if they want to come up, share their story.
If they ever believed.
Yep, I am a former Protestant fundamentalist.
I'm a former Catholic. So, we would not have gotten along.
Right.
Welcome and thank you for subscribing.
Yeah, I appreciate
Big
that.
W, huge W. Yeah, really hit that like button too. Help us boost this. We're just trying to get started. We've been doing this for a couple weeks now. I think it's cool that we get to do it as a couple. It's a little bit of a different perspective than the atheist community is kind of booming right now on YouTube and TikTok, but I don't know. Maybe we can have a different perspective having two people with different backgrounds.
Christian community booming too? So I don't follow a lot of it, but like maybe at the same time, like it's just the internet like is popping with, new conversations and that sort of thing. That could be interesting. I don't know. But okay, so Shroud of Turin debunked
is
1400
crap.
CE forgery. And then what else? What was the latest? Besides the Shroud of Turin, I mean, like has there been other like sightings or like relics? Relics were big for a while.
You might know more of that. What's the most recent miracle of the Fatima children?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Come tell us, Don.
Yeah, what's the Fatima children? I don't know about that one. Interesting. Oh darn, there's something here that says, oh, never mind. That's
probably me.
Oh yeah, did you try to join in?
No, I didn't. 1910 to 1920. Also, thank you. You look fabulous tonight, Don. Actually, I can't see you, but I just know that you do.
It says device not connected. It looks like we had somebody trying to get in, but...
What does it say? Bible...
The device is not connected.
But there's a name under there. Bible something.
Yeah. Can't quite read it. They will...
Maybe they need to...
It says they will need to connect.
If you're trying to get in and your name is Bible Earth Hub? E-Hub?
F-Hub, maybe?
We would love to talk to you. You don't have a good connection, it looks like. Maybe check your Wi-Fi. Try to rejoin. We'd love to bring you up.
Yep, it just says check your microphone before joining.
Oh yeah, check your mic. Do a little test.
Yeah, any other Christians, feel free to join. We're just interested to know like why you would still believe. We are former Christians, and we left obviously for our own reasons. And maybe they were wrong. I mean,
convince us.
I think it's Peter that says you're supposed to capture people for the faith, and I would love to believe. It would make my life a whole lot simpler, quite frankly. It was tough to leave, honestly. I just failed to be convinced anymore. Unfortunately, I studied my way out of it, is the way I look at it, I guess. I was reading Christian books and stopped believing, believe it or not.
You were reading like geography, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that like the strata of the earth?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I'm not even like a geologist by any stretch. Like I took a class in college, so I don't know much about it, and it always just kind of bothered me. I was always thinking like, why does the earth look so old if
we have a chat from Crown of 12 Stars. What happened that you stopped believing? Which one of us do you want to hear from? Yeah. And if you want to come up here and have us pull you up, we can talk in real time. Yep. But we can also just moderate the chat. He believed a lot longer than I did. He's evangelical, the word?
Yeah, evangelical fundamentalist,
icky.
Sunday school.
I call it icky.
Sunday school teacher. Oh, hold on. We do need to pause this for the finishing the last thing, which was the Fatima miracle of the Fatima children. It said in 1917, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared 6 times to 3 shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos and her cousins, Francisco and Jacinta Marto, in Portugal from May 13th to October 13th. Well, there you go. I mean,
the Virgin Mary is appearing.
Now, as a Protestant, there's no way that's true. As a former Protestant.
Former Catholic? Okay, Virgin
She might buy
Mary.
it. I just, as a former Protestant.
Come on in.
That's
Show us what's up. Show us what's up.
Virgin birth, walking on water, totally makes sense.
That Mary that appeared was a demon.
Yes, that Negan Walker does believe that Mary was a demon. As a former Protestant, I would have believed that it was a demon as well. But the person asking, like, what happened? Why did we stop believing? Oh, yeah, and we'll continue the story about the Mary of Fatima. This is interesting because I didn't know about this. But yeah, so I was like deep into it. I was in my 30s, leading worship, worship and Bible studies and all this sort of thing. I was reading the Bible all the time. And the thing that kept bothering me was that I like that the age of the earth was bugging me, because like I knew enough that I knew that the earth was actually old, like scientifically and just like observably. So I picked up a book from two Christian geologists that were defending like why the earth is actually young even though it looks old. And the it was just very silly, like the I mean, it it wasn't silly until about 2/3 of the way in, when I just realized, okay, this is just making excuses. Like there were things that were apparently excuses, which is technically what an apologetic is. It's like when something seems like it's not, Christian, but a Christian wants to defend it as being real. They have to make a reason for it, an excuse or an apologetic, and that was what this book was. And I was just like, wait a minute. I had been doing these apologetics for years, like at least, all through college and after college. And then I was just like, what if it isn't real? What if it is silly? And then once I asked myself that question, um, all of a sudden I was like, whoa, if it isn't real, everything else would make so much more sense. All of the things that I had been like trying to, like, I don't know, defend, what I didn't need to do anymore. It was just kind of like, oh man, yeah, it's just a way simpler explanation for there not to be this. I guess that's why
It's so
I
interesting because the first time you accept that, like, maybe all of this I don't have to excuse, then it just kind of all crumbles. And it's a little
Mhm.
scary and it's a little like, but,
Yeah.
I don't know who
Oh,
Negan Walker is, and I can't figure out if you're real or a troll, but if you encountered a demon and that's how you know Jesus is real, I'd love to hear you defend that.
yeah. Encountering a demon. So that's interesting though, right? Because like, there's a lot of like there's like jinns in Islam, and like
Right?
people encountering jinns. And so like if a person encountered a jinn, does that mean that Islam and Allah is real? Like how do you know if like
Totally.
demons and Yahweh are real, or jinns and Allah is real? Or I'd be interested to know about like the Hindu gods. But you say what? How did you lead? How did you stop believing?
I mean, I noticed all the people around me were being hypocritical assholes and acting one way on Sunday and a different way every other day. And I just grew weary very fast.
So with hypocrisy.
I work in biotechnology. We went from atheism to religion, including a lot of other scientists and major groups of even huge figured scientists. Stars, I'm not sure I completely understand your comment, but if you actually went from atheism to religion, we'd love to hear why. If you want to come on up, we'll pull you up.
Yeah, you can
And
click the
Crown of
link.
12 Stars, it was a little bit easier for me because I wasn't in it as long. I think it was really hard for my husband. I think everyone's deconstruction journey is really hard and different, and they take different times and different stages. Some people kind of softly deconstruct and kind of believe in like a generic God, or like I can just believe the best parts of the Bible but not all of the Bible. I didn't trust the organized religion. I didn't trust the people. um and I was only in it for about 8 years, so it wasn't as hard for me to leave. You were what?
Oh, over 30. I mean, since I was born, but yeah, I left when I was in my mid 30s, essentially. So, yep.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Negan, yes, we were an atheist couple. We used to both believe. We had different backgrounds in belief, but we're both deconstructed former believers that just want to kind of see if any Christians want to come up and talk about why they believe. And
See if we're like wrong, for example. I mean, am always open to the possibility that I'm wrong. That's why I actually consider myself an agnostic atheist. So I don't necessarily believe that there's no God. For me, it was just that I just am not convinced that the Christian God is real. Um, but that's actually more interesting to me, is that like, because for me, if there was a God, it would be the Christian God. But I'm interested mostly for this prompt because we want to keep it on topic. Why Christians still believe? That would be the more like probably
Yeah, I
main
mean, that would
topic.
be ideal if anyone wanted to come talk. Atheists make atheism seem so horribly cringe. Okay, Chris, well, that's interesting. Um, Come talk
Come
to us
on
about it.
up. Explain why.
Tell
Love to
us why we're
hear.
cringe. Tell us why you believe. I see Negan was an atheist, but not anymore. I'd love to hear about that too. Um,
Looks like we got somebody who gave up on the faith the past 5 months.
Dante gave up on the faith. Spider-Man says there's zero demonstrable evidence for any gods, devils, demons, ghosts, or anything supernatural. I tend to agree until proven otherwise. I'd like to believe in things that are true. No one's proven that any of those are true to me.
Yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things for me is like I want to know what's true. So like I know I've got friends in that still hold to a faith, hold to their faith, and they say that they do it just because of community and convenience, but like for me I've
Well,
got to know what's
we've got a
true.
comment here from Stars that says, one question cut off all your faith. You'd rather risk eternity than a lifetime. So
Really good
that's an
question.
interesting argument. And I'd love, like, we can talk in real time if you want to come up here. I mean, we can address it via chat too. In my mind, hell is actually the worst part of belief. The idea that just because I'm not convinced in something means I'm going to suffer for all eternity doesn't seem like a logical or just punishment.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't think that a just God that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm not really scared of hell. I used to be. I used to kind of hold on to belief because I was afraid, what if I'm wrong? But that doesn't really bother me anymore. Um,
One of the things too, like stars, good question. Like, so one question cut my belief. It's interesting because it was like, it was actually the one question that
that kind of
cracked the
cracked it. It didn't cut
eggshell.
it. It didn't happen automatically for you.
Right. It was like I had been defending so many things. I remember the first, well, I had two instances, but like one of the first main ones was when I was in a youth camp and I was learning about Mark and basically I learned that of course like the last I think it's after like there's like verses at the end of Mark that aren't in the original manuscripts, they're only in like the later ones, and those last verses like troubled me because there was some weird stuff in there. And then it was like, well, wait a minute, like I would defend why those had to be in the originals, and there and a lot of other things like I mean, I was on the forums. I was defending like the second law of thermodynamics for creationism and all this sort of stuff. And it was just like once that first crack happened, and then it was like, oh, then all the other things kind of fell into place. That was what I guess it wasn't one question that like stopped the faith, and that's why they called it like a deconstruction process. It was the thing that like started the questions, and that's why we're called inquiry couple, right? Because we have questions, we're interested in learning, and we're
Well, we're also just
open-minded.
interested in talking about it because I
Right.
think that overall, we're all just people trying to figure out our way, and we kind of agree in our viewpoint, but we know not everybody does. Also, a lot of people who believed, especially for a very long time and as deeply as you did, they call it like a crack in an eggshell.
Mhm.
Like something cracks it and you start asking questions, and then as that snowballs, the questions come faster and faster, and the apologetics can't keep up.
And also totally respect that, stars.
Stars, you don't sound mean at all.
Yeah, you don't seem.
Um,
In fact, and I completely respect that. If you want to like chat versus call in, you might not be in a place where you can call anyway. Totally cool. We
But
continued
also, I do
talk.
agree. I can't be scared of something I don't believe in. I used to be scared of hell, but I no longer really believe in it. So I'm not scared of it. I think
Yeah.
it's a horrible concept. And I think the fact that people who believe in God think that that is a logical punishment for other people in their lives that they love, I don't think that makes any sense. I don't think that that's just or wonderful. I don't know. Help me out here.
Yeah, for me, I actually the when I stopped having to believe or come up with reasons to believe, I think I got to the point where I was defending so many things that were contradictory that I was relieved when I finally didn't have to try to reconcile the contradictions. And one of the contradictions was hell, because in the Old Testament, like, there was no hell; it was Sheol. Unless you throw Enoch in there, which that is obviously, like, post the Book of Daniel in terms of like when it was written, but like, or in that zone when it was kind of like apocalyptic Judaism. But like, there was a total evolution of hell in itself, and like you went from like Sheol, which was like this dark shade like place, and then of course like the Greeks come in the Hellenistic society, like leaves its imprint on the Jewish society, and then all of a sudden we get fire forever type of thing, and then it goes, and then it like evolves from there until you get to Revelations where you've got the lake of fire. And so to me it was always like, oh, I always wondered why there was no hell in the, like, more than half of the book, and then all of a sudden hell shows up, and I was like, well, man, that sucks. And it's like, I've got people that, like, I think that they lived a good life, and I don't think they should burn for all eternity for like not being convinced. So anyways, yeah, that was what
I like this comment. You don't have all comments turned on, you only have top chat. But I like this comment from Negan comparing Jesus to Santa Claus. And actually, that's kind of my biggest point. Like, I could make any argument for Santa Claus that you could make for Jesus, and it could be a complete parallel. And that's another reason that I think it's just kind of silly. It's silly to me at this point. I think that believing in something that people tell you is real based on stories or books with no factual backup, evidence, etc., it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And we still have, and I apologize, I'm going to bring this closer to me so I can read it. We still have Babe Elzebub, which, by the way,
Great name.
awesome name.
Great name.
We still have Babe Elzebub trying to join it. It says that device, there needs to be a microphone connected. So I apologize. We'd love to bring you up and talk, but it does say that there needs to be a microphone connected.
Stars, I would argue, what facts tell you that God is real? Like, you've got to prove the thing that I can't see, touch, or fathom, that there's some reason that I should, rather than the alternative. Like, what facts do I have that the tooth fairy isn't real? There are no facts because it's not a real thing.
Yeah, it's sort of like that analogy where it's like there's a floating teapot around the Andromeda galaxy, but it's so small we can't see it with the naked eye or telescopes. Prove me wrong. It's like, okay, well, I can't prove you wrong. Maybe there is.
I can't prove something wrong that doesn't exist because there are no facts for something that doesn't exist. So what I need is evidence or proof that maybe there's a reason to think this thing does exist.
Or logic, quite
some
frankly.
kind of logic, some kind of...
Yeah, if there's like a really good reason. So like, I mean, if someone has some sort of like really good reason, like there has to be the Christian God. And obviously, like, this prompt is not necessarily about a God, although like that would be an interesting discussion too, right? Does there have to be a God? But I think moreover, it's like, why the Christian God? Like, what, why not, Vishnu,
Right.
or, Brahma, or, for some of those ancient, Allah, or all of those ancient gods, I'm just like drawing a blank.
Well, we've got a lot of people saying
Shamash.
Why they believe. Feel free to come up here and chat with us so that we can actually talk to you in real time. We've got a link right here. You can just put that in your browser. Come on up, we'll pull you up. We can have a honest conversation. We don't want to be antagonistic. I mean, unless you become an asshole. Yeah. But like, we won't try to be rude. We just want to talk about it.
And feel free to use it as a platform. There's quite a few viewers that are obviously like watching, and if you've got a good message that you think is convincing, like, by all means come up or continue to chat. Oh no, and someone thought it was a Christian chat. You know what? It is a Christian chat because we're happy to discuss with Christians. We're not like anti-Christian by any stretch of the imagination. We're just
unconvinced former believers.
Yeah, we just lost our faith. essentially is the best way to put it. And so if people have like a good reason why we should believe, we just wanted to create like a platform where people can have the discussion, because it's pretty toxic out there right now. People are like entrenched in their one ways, and they're just not really open to the other, options. And so this is more of like a way to.
Babe Beelzebub is Amelia.
Oh, that's amazing. Love it. So yeah. So honestly, if you have a good reason, and obviously Phil put it into the chat now. It is easier to talk live, I will say that, and you don't need to use your camera. This is
you don't have to be on camera. You don't have to identify yourself. You can put whatever
Oh
name
yeah,
you want
we
to
encourage
on
you
there.
not to identify yourself by any stretch.
I mean, whatever name you're comfortable with, but do feel free to come chat with us.
And so, like, for example, all the other ancient gods are fallen angels. Well, it's like
Don me either.
how do we know that? I mean, like I could say like all of the other gods are Yahweh and the sons of God that were in Genesis that mated with the women, and God's really Allah, and Yahweh is just this like little fake god that. So I mean, it's like pointing fingers, I guess.
Hash, I'm trying to keep up. I see that you posted that you think there's actual evidence of the army that was left after Moses parted the Red Sea, and you feel like we didn't address that.
Oh, that's a good one.
We are trying to keep up. I feel like Josh is probably got some verses for that.
There is now. You guys can research this, because I don't want to sit here and like type in resources, but everyone watching should fact check this. So there was a guy, and I think his name was. I'm gonna screw this up. I think his name was Joe something, Joe Baker. I could be totally wrong on that.
Okay, well.
Anyways, it wasn't Bob Barker. But anyways.
Not Bob Barker.
Anyways, this archaeologist said we did like this scouting of the bottom of the Red Sea, and there was chariots down there and that sort of thing. That has been debunked. I will just say that y'all can do the actual research, but that has been debunked. But that's a good one. That was another good one. It's sort of like all those UFO stories, right? Where it's like, oh, the sighting.
Hi, A-Rod. Welcome in. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's like, so like, we saw these UFOs, they were totally real, or like we saw Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster, or like all this stuff. I would love to believe, especially in the Loch Ness Monster, because I loved the Loch Ness Monster, but I'm just not convinced the Loch Ness Monster is real. And a lot of these things where it's like, oh, but like there were 500 witnesses, but like what were their names? Like there was like there's many books, and you could take your pick between like any of Homer and Plutarch, and Plutarch was notorious for this, but like there were so many embellished stories where it's like, and then we went to this island and there was a cyclops, but no one could verify it, or there was 500 witnesses that saw. I mean, there was a ton of witnesses that saw Muhammad split the moon, right? But Christians would say,
I don't really
there's no way
believe that Muhammad split the moon.
Right. It's like a Christian
Not sure I would believe that anymore.
Yeah, a Christian would say, like, I don't believe Muhammad split the moon. That's ridiculous. And then people would be like, but there were witnesses. Those witnesses were that was made up. But then they're like, but the witnesses that were unnamed in the New Testament in one book, that was totally true, even though all the others didn't even mention the 500. It's like, okay, guys, that was.
So Negan thinks you went to church for 7 years and didn't receive the Holy Spirit. I think you went a lot longer than 7 years, and you thought you did receive the Holy Spirit.
I'm interested why you landed on the number 7. If you can clear that one up for me. Why not 6? Because that would be more accurate. If I went the holy 7 years, I would definitely have been a Christian. But I was Christian. I felt it deep in my heart and soul. I made very, very big life choices because I was a Christian, ones that I definitely would not have made now. And I won't go into details unless someone wants to come up here and actually talk. But I made some very, very important decisions based off the fact that I was a Christian. I dedicated my life to it. I probably wouldn't be in the career I'm in. I probably wouldn't. I mean, even have the family I have. I'm thankful that I do now. But yeah, but yeah, I was Christian. I had the Holy Spirit. I felt it. Interestingly enough, the feeling of the Holy Spirit isn't unlike the last amazing concert that I went to. And if any of y'all have seen like your favorite musician play and felt it like deep in your soul, it is a lot like that. Now, I have turned off the voice that I thought I was hearing in my head because now I realize that it was just my voice, or I think that it was just my voice. Come on up here and prove me wrong, if or talk to me about it if you think that like your own psyche or your own you know voice in the back of your head is God. I mean, if you've got a
Right. Like,
reason
why
for
can't it
it.
just be your internal thoughts or your conscience or, you know, things that other people have told you that your subconscious is remembering that you're like, oh, I shouldn't do that. That's bad. Or, oh, I should help that person, even though it's inconvenient. I don't know why there needs to be a God involved.
Yeah, and
Crown of
especially
12 Stars wants to know if you made life choices based off of a book or based off of your direct communion.
both. I felt, I say I feel, but I felt because I'm putting myself back in that position. Um, I felt like I needed to read the Holy Scripture to understand God's actual words. So while God spoke to me when I was praying, I felt like if I were to just like throw the Bible in the trash and disappear for 30 years into the woods and pray to God, that if I came out of the woods 30 years later, I may not be thinking quite correctly because there have been like cult leaders that believed in Yahweh that, in Waco, Texas, got their entire congregation killed. And I don't necessarily think that they were totally following the book correctly. If anyone remembers the Waco, Texas story. So
I
I
assume all of us are old enough to remember that.
right, I tied the book to the relationship. So it was both. It was both the
You were like
Bible.
a Bible is infallible believer, correct?
I was
Sorry
a
for
I was a literalist. Oh yeah, and because it'll bounce in the
right.
mic.
I
But
didn't
yeah,
mean to
it,
do
it
that.
was it was a literalist belief personally. I know there's some people that think that the Bible's one huge allegory. That would be an interesting conversation because if God gave His written word, I would ask like, well, why didn't He like make sure it was right? And they're like, oh, well, the original translation was right. It was like, well, why didn't God make sure the translation stayed correct? And so my problem was too, like once I found the clear contradictions in it, not just like contradictions in the Old Testament versus the New Testament, which holy whiplash, Batman, that is crazy. You go from like vengeful, Yahweh to loving Jesus in most of it.
Mostly loving
Just just
Jesus.
just cut Revelation out because you're
Right.
gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna have relapses. But like there's even contradictions in the same like book. Like it's kind of wild. I mean, I get why Chronicles and like Kings and Samuel contradict because Chronicles was written way later to basically correct those books. But like in the book of Acts, we're in like within like 4 chapters, there's like major contradictions like with what actually happened. I'm just like, why
I don't know who
exactly?
Saint Chucky is, but I'm chuckling. The the Holy Bible.
Do
Do
we?
you believe?
Okay, that's pretty solid. But that's a whole nother thing too. Now we have new things, right? So now we have like the discoveries at Ugarit, which shed light on like the Canaanite pantheon and the Shaddai gods, which now we know that Yahweh was just one of the 70 sons of El. And then we have the Elephantine discovery, where we have like a Jewish um, group that is writing the Temple of Jerusalem to ask for money, and they're giving them money, and they have like both Asherah and Yahweh or Yahoo in the same temple, and they're clearly like okay with it not being in Jerusalem, and that was like 400 BC. And then, I mean, I can go on, but it's like we have all this new archaeology and evidence that's like showing that what was rewritten into history through the books just isn't what was happening back then. So that's the part for me that's just like hard to
Honestly,
understand.
Negan, if I could summon a demon to encounter them and just see what happened,
Oh,
I don't
dude.
know the proper way. Do you know? Like,
Oh
I've tried to
yeah.
summon the Holy Spirit, I've tried to summon ghosts, I've
I've
tried
even
like
wanted to see a
an
ghost.
alien, like any
Dang, I
of it. None of
know.
them have
So
ever
sick.
appeared. So, like, is there a specific demon prayer I need to do?
Mhm.
Uh, is
We
my disbelief?
We in
not
fact
enough to see a demon, to prove me wrong.
have like creepy dolls in the house. We have like, anyone, if there's anyone viewing that knows us in real life, they can
They're
verify
very creepy.
creepy dolls, Ouija board, all the whole shooting match. And honestly, it's stuff that we think is interesting, right? So I don't necessarily. I wish that the creepy dolls would like,
because you're not doing it right. He says,
I'm not. I know. Well,
okay, that's what I'm asking. Come tell me what to do.
In fact, tell us all how to do it, because quite frankly, if like a demon showed up, like
right now.
And actually, you know what? I remember when I was a Christian. So I went through periods, and it's funny because thank you. Who is it?
Negan.
Okay. So Negan, thank you for bringing this up, because when I was a Christian, when I was a Christian, oh yeah, tell me about Claudia. When I was a Christian, I went through periods, and any Christian on here who's gonna say, see, I told you.
Oh, yoga, that satanic
Christian.
yoga. I've done plenty of yoga and I've still never met a demon.
Well, okay, if anyone on here says,
and also I see someone saying, we're not attacking Christians. We just know the most about Christianity. We're willing to talk to anyone of any faith about why they believe in what they believe in.
I can't argue one way or the other about Islam. We don't know
so much about Islam.
I mean, I know, I'm starting to get,
we know
some, to try to understand.
And we'd be willing to talk about it. We're not attacking Christianity either. We said this is a very
yeah, I'm just curious why you still believe.
Healthy platform where we just want to talk. We want someone to come up here and tell us why they believe, so that we can chat about it, have a healthy discourse.
Right. But back to Negan's thing, because I'm glad you brought that up. I had gone through periods of my faith.
Call it Papa, but I don't see anyone in the queue.
Maybe our queue's not working. Did you want to test? We can test it. Maybe people are trying.
Hey, a friendly Dawn, will you try to get in our queue so that we can see if it's working?
Yeah, we won't bring you up, but if any friendlies want to just test it real quick. But yeah, anyways, I mean, I can try on my phone from like a different account, but that would suck if people are trying to call in and they can't. Type in the chat, basically, if you've tried to call in but it's not working, type in, hey, I tried, and then we can, whatever. But question, but I'm trying to get back to Negan's comment, because I really appreciate that. I went through times
where summoning demons.
No, about trying to wanting to see a demon.
Dawn, the link is right here. tinyurl.com/inqcpl.
Yep. If anyone types tinyurl.com/inqcpl, it'll bring you into the queue, and then we can let you up. Like, say you can choose your camera on or off. Audio is the only thing we need to be able to talk. But I wished that I could have seen a demon or seen something that proved that God existed, because I'd always heard like missionary stories where they like went into another country and it was always Haiti. I don't know. Anyways, they went into a different country and there were demons and stuff, and they saw demons and they experienced demonology. And I was like, dude, like I would want that. I believe, and I have faith. And that's actually different, right? Because I believed like 90% of the time. But every once in a while, 95% of the time, I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. But every once in a while, you have like a moment where you question your faith. And that's when you have to have faith, right? It's like, I'm going to push through this 5% and I'm going to have faith. And that's when I would go to my apologetics and I would read stuff that would help reaffirm the things that I'm questioning. And so, yeah, that's why I wish that I could have seen a demon, because heck, if I would have seen a demon, I'd still be a Christian. Hands down.
But if the demon was cool?
Well, then I would definitely think I'm a Christian, because the devil's tricky.
That's a good point.
So if I saw a demon, now I would say this actually, as a newly more self-questioning person or philosophical individual, if a demon popped up, I would say, okay, I at least for sure believe in a spiritual realm. Oh yeah, Dawn can come up. Dawn, I won't bring you up, but I appreciate it.
Okay, we see someone in the box.
Yeah, that's Dawn.
Can we
just
check?
Tested it.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
We can add her. Okay, cool. Thank you, Dawn.
Yep, we're good.
I see a comment that says, do you condemn atheists like Stalin and Hitler for atrocity? Of course, I condemn anyone for atrocity. I don't care if you believe the same thing as me. If you're committing atrocities like genocide, you don't believe the same thing as me, because I think that that's horrendous. I don't care
Yeah.
what you associate as, and I don't care if you do it as an atheist and then convert and supposedly go to heaven, Jeffrey Dahmer. It's all atrocious. Like, I'm anti atrocity.
Yeah, we had a Christian on here the other day that came up and talked to us about the fact that we can't have objective morality because we don't believe in their God. And it's like, and they were trying to defend slavery because in the Old Testament, Yahweh condoned slavery. And we were just like, dude, I don't care if you're now or back then, even if it was the time where slavery was like permitted, slavery never is okay. Never is okay. And so it's like, what,
If I
what
don't think it's okay now, why would I think it was okay in a certain time?
right.
That's my question.
Just because everyone was doing it,
Right.
now what would have been super convincing is if Yahweh would have came out and in like the 10 commandments, even though like half the commandments are all about just like obeying him, what if he threw on an 11th commandment and said, oh, and by the way, don't have slaves. That's gross, dude. Oh, and by the way, treat women with equality. Maybe throw on a 12th. I don't know if he had enough room on the rocks, but if he did, the 12th, maybe. It's a little feedbacky. But yeah, sorry. Anyways, great questions. Sorry for the rant.
No,
In the Bible, they were being abused by God, told Moses to leave them out of slavery. Yeah, good question. Good point, actually. In the Bible, they were being abused, and God told Moses to leave them out of slavery. And then he said that you could have slaves. So that's a little hypocrisy. That's a little God hypocrisy. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's plenty of times where God tells you where to get your slaves from and how to treat them. So why are those slaves being let out of slavery, but the other ones are okay to be owned forever?
In fact, what would be really
like, what's the verse where it tells you can own your slaves and their children forever? Can you find that on the?
Oh, it's in Deuteronomy. Yeah. Yeah. Let me pull that up here real quick. But yeah, go ahead and take some chats while I pop.
Oh, the chats are talking to each other about how we don't want to believe and we want to corrupt everyone, which is completely opposite of what we have said or expressed on our stream. We said we want to have honest discourse. We'd love for someone to come talk to us and tell us what they believe.
But
maybe that's too scary. I don't know. That's fine.
Maybe we do want to corrupt people. Maybe this is one big trick. So, okay. I mean, Deuteronomy 20 is a good one. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So I'll share my screen here real quick about the slavery comment. Because someone had asked about it. Share screen. It is this one. Sharing. See if this works.
Everyone has a lot to chat
Look
about.
Look at this technology that I've harnessed. By the way, I do believe in God, and her name is Gemini.
Okay.
And there's actually a holy trinity, and it's Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT. They know everything. They talk back to me. It's actually I get more of an actual like response than I did from when I was a Christian. Way less vague. I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. Anyways, so okay, this one, for example, this is Leviticus 25:44 through 46, and it says, as for the male and female slaves whom you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire the male and female slaves. So like this is after they leave Egypt. So they were slaves. Oh, it looks like you might have. Oh, never mind. I thought we had someone pop up. This is after they've left slavery. And keep in mind, they leave Egypt as slaves, and God rescues them from slavery. And then he goes up. Moses goes up on the mountain, and he writes the 10 Commandments, breaks them, has to write them again. I get it. I'd be pissed too if I was Moses. So no shade on that. But then he doesn't add into the 10 Commandments. By the way, dudes, don't have slavery anymore because do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like apparently he hadn't listened to his son. But it says, as for the male and female slaves, it's the nations around you. You can acquire them.
Hashtrick says, never would anyone be crucified for a lie. Please address this. How many people have been crucified for their beliefs? or committed suicide for their belief.
Has anyone seen a suicide bomber?
Has anyone watched?
Does that mean that Islam's true? Okay. There's many other examples.
Right. That's a little bit of a tangent. We're talking right now about slavery. We can talk about
people dying for their beliefs
in a minute. People die for their beliefs all the time. That doesn't mean that every single religion with martyrs can all be true.
Right.
Tangent.
I do
can come back to that. We'll love to chat about that.
I do actually have a killer theory about that, though, about what Jesus actually thought when he went into Jerusalem. But if you're interested, we can talk about it. Okay, so then it says you can acquire them from the other lands. You guys can see this on the screen. They can be your property. Okay. Oh wait. Blah blah blah. And if they're with you, have been born in your land, they may be your property. So it's interesting because a lot of times, Christians will say, "Well, slavery was different back then," but it's like, dude, like it says right here, it's not like servitude. They may be your property. Is not, I'm your servant. That's hardcore, right? You may keep them as possessions for your children after you. So it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, they're your new kids' heritage. These aliens in your land. That's gross, man. Anyways, so that's just really gross. You may treat as slaves, but as for you and your fellow Israelites, you know what? Nobody should rule over them with harshness because.
So basically, as long as it's not among your people, you can have them and you can have them forever.
Right.
Keep them as a possession for your children after you to inherit as property.
Yeah.
Sounds a little gross.
It's pretty gross, man. But that's why that is another reason why I'm just like, why are we still believing in this business? That's the question. That's the prompt. If anyone has reasons, pop it in the chat. We're happy to talk about it. Feel free to join on.
They're popping off in the chat, but no one wants to come have a conversation. They seem to.
It is way easier to have a dialogue. And by the way, we are nice. You are probably way smarter than us. So if you have reasons, and by the way, I remember from my readings, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christians, if you are a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit, which technically makes you smarter than anyone, or at least powered to come up against the opposition, especially when all the viewers that we have are hearing terrible things about your God. It would probably, like, at least when I was a Christian, I'd be like, oh, heck no. I'm coming up and I'm telling these fools, like, I would shut it down. I'd shut it down with the Holy Spirit. But I was a little hardcore. I was jacked up on Jesus when I was a Christian. So I do love the fact that the one caller called out, and I'm gonna call that into question, 7 years. I was a Christian I became a Christian when I was 5, and I was Christianity.
We were talking about slavery. I have to read this. God only showed rules for slavery. He never said that slavery is okay. Why didn't he just say, don't do it? Why did he say, here's how you do it? If he was against slavery, he would have just said, hey, don't do that thing. He wouldn't have said, here's how you do it. That doesn't make any sense. That is a horrible argument. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I get your passion there. That is a pretty bad argument.
It's a terrible argument.
But yeah.
The Trinity is true because the triangle has 3 angles.
You know who, that's really good. Also, that's like a shout out to Pythagoras. Mm-hmm. Don't get me started. I love myself some Pythagoras. That's good stuff. That would have been an interesting time to live back in the day when, like, there was like the pantheons, and then there was like some monotheism, and then like, people were trying to decide, are all these gods real? Is there just one all-powerful God? That's why I'm saying, hey, you know what? Obviously, at this point, you guys know that I don't technically believe that there's like multiple gods out there, but what if there are? Why is it Yahweh? Why is Yahweh the one? It can't be on popularity because technically he's getting overcome by Allah currently. And even if they're neck and neck, that's just a bad horse race. That does not prove one way or the other. So I'm a little curious there.
See a lot of people asking what our perspective is and what we believe. Feel free to use this link and come up. We'll call you up. We'll have a conversation.
Love to have a conversation.
I mean, I'm looking at the chat, but between the two of us, it's really hard to keep up, and there's a lot of
My perspective is I'm currently unconvinced. I'm not sure that there's a God. I don't necessarily believe that there's a God, but if there was, it could just be like not interested in what we're doing. But I definitely don't believe in the Christian God. That is unquestionable. I definitely don't believe that. That I would love to be proven wrong because I could go all of the Bible study that I did would then all of a sudden prove useful in all that time I spent leading worship band, teaching Sunday school, uh, having family that isn't awkward around the holidays. Yeah, so much easier not having to like hide like, oh, I'm an atheist, I'm evil. I mean, it'd be so much more convenient to be Christian in this country. We're in the USA. Not sure, I mean, there's obviously people joining from everywhere, but yeah, in the US I feel like it would be super groovy to be Christian and make my life way easier because at work you can be like, I went to church on Sunday and had a fish fry, but if I said I had a live atheist debate. People would be like, "Oh, gross, what?" And it's like, "Oh man, that's it's a bummer."
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's definitely a minority feeling to be a non-believer in the area of the states that we live in. Um, it's not something you talk about. A lot of people think you're a demon or I don't know, a wicker.
I was called a wicker.
I've been called a wicker. Yes. Uh,
Greeks did not create the Christian God. I well, yeah, no, I agree. Well, wait a minute. Are you calling the Christian God Jesus or are you calling the Christian God Yahweh? Because that's not I think that's a fallible statement. But you're happy to kind of clear that up, the person that said that. Yeah, why does God love money so much? That's a really good question. I mean, there's the obligatory tithe sermon. I almost did go into ministry. That would have sucked because had I done that, now if I would have went into ministry, I would need to put food on the table, so I would also be talking about tithing. So
Brandon, I want to know why you think we did not ask the Lord to reveal himself to us. I want to know why you think that we didn't truly believe when we were
I will ask the Lord to reveal himself to
a
me right
part
now.
of but also don't insult us by saying that when we believed we didn't truly believe with all of our hearts and that we didn't do all of the things that I don't want this to sound hollow, but like don't try to tell me where my depth of belief and study and community was just because I don't have it anymore. You don't get to tell me that I didn't try hard enough. That's actually one of my most antagonistic points that you can say is that you didn't try hard enough as a Christian, you didn't believe good enough, therefore you weren't really a Christian. That's bullshit. Plain and simple.
Well, he doesn't know us, or they don't know us.
Well, I'm just calling it out.
But if you think you do, bring it up. We'd love to talk. I'd love to hear you prove that we weren't real Christians. Because you're right. There's two verses actually. There's the contradictory verses. One says that once that you have believed, you can never get snatched out of his hands. That's a Paul verse. And then there's another verse though that basically says if those that deny me, they're going to get rejected, right? So it's like 6-7. I said it. 6-7 on what the
yes,
Bible
we have
says.
teenage children.
We just lost half of our viewers when I did that, so that's perfect. I'm glad. We needed to cull the herd. We need to sift the goats from the sheep here. But anyway,
I love that they also think that we haven't studied the origin of the Bible and the origin of religion because we literally are constantly studying the amount of books that we own and read all the time about all religions is actually insane.
So maybe actually it could be that individual that's made that comment has studied and is telling the Christians in the chat study the origin. It could be the flip side because quite frankly, studying the origins will pull you out of as Socrates would say, the double ignorance. When you're ignorant of your own ignorance, that could quite possibly be what they mean, which I would totally agree with. If a person doesn't know what they don't know, how are they going to know to get out of it? It's having to like peel those layers back when you get there, essentially. But we'd love to have a conversation if there's a bold Christian who has good reasons as to why they should still believe. We'd love
Hmm.
for you to join
I
in the
would,
chat.
in the meantime, address Negan's most recent comment about the universe and creation.
Okay, Negan. Negan asked if the universe created itself, or if someone had to create all of this. So, this is an interesting question. Now, I have not been around since the beginning of the universe. So, I'm going to use three words that are very powerful, which are I don't know. I don't know if the universe or how the universe or why the universe came into existence. But what's interesting is I struggled with the fact that my mom would always tell me that God always existed. So God has been eternal. He was always there. And I'd be like, well, wait a minute. How can something always be? Well, it's God. And God is outside of time. And God created time. And it's like all this big, like, eternal talk, right? And then I wrapped my head around it, or I wrapped my head around it enough to be comfortable with the concept that God had always existed. Now, if you remove God from the equation and you think that the universe possibly always existed with a series of big bangs and big crunches, in other words, for anybody who is a physics nerd, the universe, if there was a big bang, it expanded out, and then as the things get far apart, picture like a rubber band, it gets to a point where it stretches to a point where the gravity, it slows down enough to then gravity slowly starts to pull back, and then it eventually gets back into a singularity and then explodes back apart again. And there's a series of big bangs and big crunches that have lasted for all eternity. Now, here's the question: why? No idea. That's why I'm agnostic. I don't necessarily believe that maybe there's a kid maybe there's a kid that's like 50 billion times bigger than the universe that's like doing something for their science experiment as an alien, and we don't know because we're so small we can't see out of this. But Yahweh, the Bible disproves itself. The Bible just quite frankly disproves itself. Now, if you are a Christian and you don't believe in the Bible, maybe.
Right, right,
Maybe.
right.
But you can't believe in the Bible.
Crown, I hear you trying to clarify that you weren't saying that you were accusing us of not trying hard enough to be a believer, and I appreciate you clarifying that. Um,
Thank you for that.
I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, so thank you for clarifying. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, no, that's super fair. Let's see here. We are to follow Christ, not religion nor man's ways for Christ. Born again, those endure, receive a crown of life. That sounds interestingly preachy and pretty hollow. In fact, we call that a deepity. It's when you state something that has no basis.
I do love a good
but
deepity.
It sounds great. Sort of like I could come up here and say something from Confucius and say that also Confucius was a god because it sounds so prolific and prove me wrong, bro, type of thing. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of all caps, like preachy kind of
That's cool,
comments.
Man. It does help. Whoever's doing the all caps preaching, it helps the rest of the folks in chat deal and cope with what we are saying. And
if it's DeAndre Lee, do we not believe in God at all anymore? We don't currently.
I don't currently think that there's a reason for a God.
Right. We don't necessarily see the reason. We don't find any of the evidence convincing that any of the gods presented to us make sense factually, that they need to be the reason for morals or the reason for decision making. We just kind of want to chat about that with someone who thinks that there is a reason, because maybe there's something we haven't thought of.
Right. So the person that asked, do you believe in science? So science is a method. So science is simply you come up with an idea, you test the idea, you see if your test is true or false, you test it again, you see if it's true or false, you get it peer reviewed by other people, and then you determine whether or not it's something to potentially move forward with. So science, yes, I believe that that's a pretty solid way to do things. Now, can science prove everything? No, because we can't see past the Big Bang.
So I always say I don't need to believe in science because I don't need to believe in facts. I just am convinced by facts. There's a
Right.
difference in believing in something and being convinced by something. The words have meaning.
And I would go so far as to say that I also believe in logic and reason. So I don't necessarily need to see like I don't need to put my finger through the holes in Jesus's hand to, believe that Jesus like rose from the dead. But four contradictory stories and then Paul completely contradicting those four stories in terms of like even the simple narrative, like the narrative is wrong. And except for the parts where they're copying each other word for word, the narrative's off. So I'm just like, man, I just don't feel. And if you guys want like examples of that, I'm happy to provide examples of like the narrative differences because they're striking.
Um, we have a comment: is science always right? Even science doesn't think science
Oh,
is always
not at
right.
all.
Science believes that we accept the thing that is most factually obvious and we keep testing it, and if we learn more and it disproves itself, then we believe that new truth that makes more sense. That's why it makes sense to me, because it keeps evolving and it takes into account new evidence, new situations, new
Yeah. Science without
intelligence.
humility.
Science never says this is the end all be all, this is true forever. Science says this is what the facts point to as the best, most proven theory right now. That's why they call it a theory.
Even things that are like apparently true, like the theory of gravity, it's apparently true. The theory of evolution is apparently true. Science is humble enough to call it a theory because what if there's something out there completely unaccounted for that we don't know? Science is humble enough to say that. I mean, I'm in sales, so like it's that one thing where someone says like if someone says something certain, for certain, they're selling you something certainly. Arrogance is ridiculous.
I love that they're saying we're personifying science. No, we're not personifying science. We're talking about it because people are asking us about it. Science is a noun as a subject. That doesn't mean I'm giving it personification. Science doesn't act, scientists act.
I would love to invite Muslim. Actually, I'm not going to say. So the prompt today is Christians. Why do you still believe? We came from Christianity, so we know more about Christianity. A Muslim can come up here and tell me that like a section of the Quran
The same
says
person has
something.
been saying this our whole live stream. Why only Christians invite you? We've addressed this like 4 times, and you've been here the whole time that we've addressed it.
Muslim or a
Deb,
Jew,
Deb.
Yeah.
Quit spamming the chat with the same comment. We've told you 100 times we'll talk to anybody.
Also,
we know the most about Christianity, so that's why our prompt says Christians. That doesn't mean we won't talk to anybody else. And to be quite frank, you haven't been brave enough to come up here and talk to us yourself.
I would actually say that if there are any Muslims or Jews like watching, I'd be happy to have the discussion as well. And I would open it up for that at this point because the Christians do not apparently have the Holy Spirit. They are not calling up in the chat or into the live stream, but I do appreciate them commenting in the chat. It is entertaining. I appreciate that, and that's why we do this because, quite frankly, there's watching TV and then there's like engaging with people with intellectual debates. It's just more appealing, and I just think it's better for everybody. I think it's better for me. I mean, I learn a lot of things.
I would love to just have a conversation with someone, so I'm not just squinting and reading a chat.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Having a discourse would allow us to learn from you, or at least attempt to have an honest dialogue.
If there is a Muslim or a Jew that is watching the chat right now, this would be an excellent platform to you to come up and tell all these Christians why they should leave Christianity and join your religion, because there's a lot of Christianity happening in the chat right now. But that being said, we know more about Christianity and we left Christianity. That's why this prompt particularly is ours currently.
Homie, of course you can join the talk. Here's our link. Type that in your browser. It'll prompt you to test your microphone, and then we'll get a notification and we'll pull you up, and you don't have to be on camera.
Yeah, totally cool. Yep. Do you want prayers to encounter the Holy Spirit or demons?
Both. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'd take either one, honestly. I felt the
Try it
Holy
all.
Spirit when I was a Christian, and it did move me. I will say that. I was moved by the Holy Spirit, or what I perceived as the Holy Spirit. I never did really see a demon, so I'd lean demon.
X
Now,
before Y, to be fair, so does the Bible have bad science. Continue.
oh yeah, that's why we get flat earthers. Whoever said that about the Quran having bad science, not just the Quran, buddy.
Yeah. The
Anyways,
Bible has really bad science. It thinks a rock badger chews its own cud and that women always bleed the first time that they have sex.
yeah,
So there's a lot of bad science
I
happening
can
there.
pull up some really good verses about
But
flat Earth if
to
people
be
want to start
fair,
reading the
like we're
Bible.
talking about the level of belief we had. Evangelical Christian, former Catholic, like the amount of,
Oh, we got someone popping up in the chat, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, the amount of like repetitive rosaries that I prayed on a hardwood floor just to be uncomfortable enough to feel God's presence and feel the Holy Spirit was asinine. It was crazy. But I believe this is our friend. Is this our homie?
This is homie.
Homie, let's bring him or her up. Bring them up.
Hey, homie, can you hear us? And are you 18 or older? Oh, I think you're muted.
See if we can unmute him.
Hello?
Oh, I
Hello.
hear you. Hello, is that homie?
Oh, sorry. I was listening to the live stream, so I couldn't hear you guys here.
Oh, no
you're
problem at
fine. Yeah,
all. Thank you for coming up. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Good. And can you confirm that you're over 18 before we get started?
Yes, I'm over 18. I'm actually
Okay.
turning 20 tomorrow.
Oh, right on.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, so are you which do you believe
Where
in
are
a
you on the
God?
belief spectrum? Just
Yeah.
get us started. You can start the conversation. We'll go from there.
Yeah. I'm a Christian. I'm a
Okay.
Christian. My name is actually David. I don't know if
David,
you
is that okay if we call you
David.
that?
Sure,
I'm
sure.
Adele. It's Josh.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So yeah, I'm a Christian.
Very cool. So what is the reason why you think why do you think that we as former Christians should still believe in Christianity? Like what's the best reason to believe in Christianity?
Okay, before I answer your question, can I
Yeah.
say something quickly?
Absolutely.
Yes.
First of all, well, a little backstory. I was born Christian. So
Okay.
it's a little bit um the biggest reason why, or should I say the biggest factor that contributes to the fact that I'm still Christian today. So let's get that out of the way.
Sure.
Second,
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Second thing is I don't believe I can convince you to believe in God. I only think that the Holy Spirit can convince you. I can only share with you the truth. So see, then it goes from there. You accept the truth or you don't.
So I also I was raised a Christian,
Okay.
and one of the an interesting thing that sticks in the back of my mind that always kind of stuck in the back of my mind later in life once I kind of like left Christianity
Mm-hmm.
was that and by the way, I really appreciate your honesty. Thank you very
Mm-hmm.
much. That's really great. I was in my grandparents' house, and I think I was around 8 years old, but I remember asking my grandma, I was like, okay, if we grew up in another country where
Mm-hmm.
it was predominantly like not Christian and
Yeah.
our family was not Christian,
Mm-hmm.
would we still be Christian? And she really didn't have an answer. It was more of like a, well, it's just who we are type of thing. And that's how I was kind of raised. So that's why I kind of believed mostly. But like, anyway, that's where kind of I came from as far as like in my original journey. But
You know the funny thing, sir? I asked my father the same exact question. I asked
Really?
him, what
yeah,
if we were, I mean, we are Christians. What if we were born, I don't know, in
In a
India? Would
Muslim
we be
country?
Hindu? Yeah. Would we
Yeah.
yeah.
be
Yes.
Muslim? And
100%.
he said, yeah, maybe. Well, I'm Christian. I believe in Jesus. So that's when I knew, like, okay, this faith thing, I need to make my own research, actually find the truth and not just believe blindly what I'm told because I'm born in it.
Yeah.
So we have the same exact story, I can say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's very interesting. So
Hmm.
you know you were born into it, so you already know that you kind of were like
I have a
influenced.
bias to believe, yes.
Yes, and you were influenced by your family and your loved ones and your
Yes.
community, and it's very meaningful to you.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm aware of that, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So to you right now as an adult, like what is the most convincing thing to you?
Okay.
Not as if convince us, change our mind, but just like tell us what is meaningful or convincing to you, just so that we can
Yeah.
like hear it and
Okay.
talk about it.
Yeah, let me give you just a quick, should I say, summary. First of
Yeah,
all,
Yeah, absolutely.
there needs to
absolutely.
be a belief that there is a God. I believe there's a. I don't know if you believe there's a God or you don't even. Should I start from there or I should start from Christianity?
Let's say that there is a God and move
Okay.
towards Christianity, because I can't say whether or not for sure there is or not, but I
Okay.
do think personally that the Christian God is the one that I struggle with.
Okay. 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 If you can agree there's a God, I would have given you some I guess some arguments that can push us to believe that there's a God. But okay, since you say there's a God, okay. So now the Christian God. Um. Wow, that becomes more difficult because Christianity is one religion out of thousands. And I'm from Africa, and in Africa alone, there are so many religions. Different tribes have religions, different tribes have deities. So why Jesus? So first of all, I believe Jesus is in a lot of religions. That's one thing we can say for sure. Jesus is in Islam, is in, I believe, Hinduism. Is a figure in a lot of religions, and he is either accepted or is rejected. And the Bible says that Jesus is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. That's John 14:6. And there's one theory that I have in my mind that is not really discussed often, is the fact that how to say this? Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to put words together.
Yeah,
No
no,
rush.
absolutely.
There's like see it as a spectrum from truth to lie and foolishness. So there is truth on one end, and foolishness is on the negative spectrum, like at the end of the spectrum.
So you're
And
you're
yes,
picturing us like a whole.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
See like a graph. So
sure.
on the right or the positive, there's truth going to the right. And on the left is foolishness. Then right in the middle is falsehood. Yes, that's the right word, falsehood. So now, what do I mean by that? The thing is, I think you're familiar with the story of Genesis, the
Yeah,
fall of man.
yeah. Yep, like the creation
Um,
story.
exactly, the fall of
Yeah.
man. God created man, put them in the Garden of Eden,
Sure.
and gave them a
And then he
task
let
to
a
take care
snake
of the
in.
garden. Exactly. Then the snake deceived Eve into eating the fruit. But if you notice one thing is that the Bible said the snake was what's the word? The snake was there's a word for it. Like the snake was deceitful.
It
I
was
can't
like
remember exactly
crafty
the
or
word.
like deceitful.
Crafty,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yep.
now back to the graph. The snake didn't entirely lie to Eve.
Right.
He
Interesting.
told
Yes.
Eve that okay, if you eat, you will become like God because you will
Exactly.
know right from wrong. And that was
Hmm.
true. It wasn't a lie. So what I'm trying to say is the devil is not foolish. The devil is crafty
Hmm.
in the sense that he's able to mix enough truth into a lie for us to believe it.
Yeah.
So the devil isn't foolish. The devil is not going to tell you that 1 + 1 is 3. No, he's not that
Right.
stupid. So
Well, yeah, exactly. For the reason that
But
if a person did that, then you would
yeah,
know
could I
something better.
interject and ask
sure.
why God allowed a crafty serpent to be in his perfect garden?
Why? That's a
Right.
good. That's a good. Before we get into that, allow me to finish my point. I'll
Oh
answer your
yeah.
Yes,
question.
please. We'll pin
Yes,
that.
yes. I'll remember that question. That's a very good question.
Thank you.
So now the point that I was getting to is that the devil isn't foolish. The devil is very crafty, very wise and deceitful in that he can mix the truth in to a lie for us to believe it. So like I said, Jesus is in a lot of religions, and I believe it is that way because Jesus is literally the truth of God, the Word of God. So he must be in all the religions because he is literally God. I'm not, I can't say for sure he's in all the religions, but I know that he is in all the major religions. And he has different stories in each of the religions. I think most religions say that he was born through a virgin birth and stuff like that. But the point I'm trying to get at is like, I believe Christianity is the only true religion and that other religions are not true. Unfortunately, Christianity is exclusive in the sense that it's the only truth, not exclusive in the sense that only Christian can be saved. Everybody is called to be saved, but if you do not put your trust in Jesus, you have no key to enter into heaven. So the point I'm getting to is that why I believe in Christianity is the fact that Jesus is in so many religions because he is the truth, and a religion cannot stand without a bit of truth in it, or unless it would just be foolishness. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. One of the things that was interesting to me is like to your point, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this,
Hmm.
is like so Jesus preached a different message than most of the Old Testament. So like the Old Testament talked a lot about like Yahweh was a jealous God, a vengeful God, which is
Hmm.
a I'm not saying I'm not condemning that
Yeah,
at
sure,
this
sure, sure.
point.
No,
I'm not
feel free,
condemning
feel free.
that.
I won't
But
get
but
offended by anything you say, by the way. Feel
yeah, oh,
free.
thank you. I appreciate that. And I won't be offended by anything you say.
Sure, sure,
Just so
sure.
you
Yeah.
know. Like it was interesting to me that like the God of the Old Testament was so much different in his demeanor than Jesus in the New Testament. And what was interesting is that the Jesus of the New Testament was
Hmm.
bringing about like new and dare I say modern because it was like, zero,
Hmm.
CE,
Yeah.
right? But like, in that zone, he was bringing like modern like philosophy
Hmm.
to an age like late Bronze Age, like Old Testament God that was all about like, you know, I mean, technically the women is property thing kind of continued a little bit, but like the
It
slavery
got a little better.
thing and like the genocide thing that the God of
Killing
the Old
babies.
Testament was doing. But what was interesting to me is like you had before Jesus, like way before Jesus, and this is where I'm interested in your thoughts. If you think that like Jesus somehow like as a god was like influencing religions before he showed up on earth, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm interested in this
Yeah.
because I
Sure.
tried to I debated about this in my own mind when I was a Christian. But like you had like Confucius who came before Jesus teaching things like Jesus taught, and you had Buddha coming like hundreds of years before Jesus teaching things that Jesus taught, and then like even Hillel, who was like a famous Jewish rabbi who came 100 years before Jesus, who literally said, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." And then Jesus like repeated it 100 years later, and everyone's like, "Oh, Jesus is amazing." And to me, I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. What if he was just another like Buddha, Confucius, Hillel, a non like militant like leader who came up and moved people like a teacher?"
Yeah. Okay. I think you have a similar description of Jesus like Muslims. You see him as a good prophet, a wise man that could save people. Not save people, but like
Yeah.
enlighten
Yeah,
people.
enlighten people. I think I mean I would agree with that. I think I mean unfortunately it says like so Jesus never wrote anything down himself. He's a lot
Yep.
like Socrates that way, right? We
Hmm.
don't know anything that Socrates wrote. We have to believe whatever Plato wrote about Socrates.
Yep.
But and unfortunately his followers were all like very poor like fishermen that
Yep.
were illiterate. I mean it says right in the thing they were uneducated fishermen, so like they were speaking Aramaic, so they weren't writing in Greek like the Gospels, right? So it's
Hmm.
kind of one of those things where it's like we can put together, I think, pretty well what Jesus taught, though, based off of like the commonalities between like the Gospels and even what Paul heard, like and that sort of thing. It's like we can kind of put together kind of what Jesus maybe like said, and I feel
Okay.
like based off of what we've put together, other than like I didn't come to like bring the uh I,
I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword.
Yeah, I have a little bit of beef.
I mean,
with
that's a statement.
Yeah,
we can discuss, but we've got a pen board.
I
We've got
feel
a
like
pen
there's
twist over
also
here.
like, there's that aspect of Jesus where he grew up like in that time period. Like
Yep.
if you're familiar with like the Essenes and like the Dead Sea Scrolls, like there was this period of time in that window where apocalyptic Judaism was rampant because they were being oppressed hard by the Romans, and they needed someone to like come up and lead them out of this hell that they were in. And it was interesting because Jesus, in mad respect for him, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think Jesus came up and was like, "Hey, I'm going to lead y'all, and we're going to take things to the next level. We're going to bring about a new order of things, like because
Mhm.
God's going to be with us, but we're going to do it differently. Instead of doing it with the sword, we're going to do it with love." And it was just such a radical concept. But I'm interested in your thoughts on that, or if I'm totally off base, let me know.
Yeah. I understand what you mean. Like what you're saying is very true. I asked the questions previously. Do you believe in science? I do believe in science, and there's a probability that okay, maybe Jesus was just another, charismatic figure who was able to drive
Sure.
crowds. Yeah, there's a
Sure.
big possibility for that. But
Right.
um,
So
yes, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but I would
Oh,
say that I think that there's a lot of historical proof that Jesus was a man who existed.
true.
And I think that he was a man who had a lot of influence. I think the part
Okay.
where I question is how do you make the jump to him being a true Messiah?
Okay. I have one question before I answer you. Do you
Of
believe
course.
in his crucifixion?
Well, yeah, I
I
think people crucified all the time in that time
I
period.
don't have a reason not to believe in his crucifixion.
Now, the
Okay.
resurrection, I'm unsure about. The
That's a little
crucifixion, I
sketchy.
believe, probably happened
The only reason I question the crucifixion or the resurrection is
Mm-hmm.
because crucifixions happened
all the time.
all the time. And in fact, I personally believe, and I'm so sorry, I don't, but I got to say this.
David is his name. Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
David.
David. So David, but like, Mary, Jesus's mother,
Mm-hmm.
witnessed thousands of crucifixions. Like when she was like growing up, or not growing up, sorry, when she was pregnant, that was
Well,
right
she was
around.
still growing up. She was
Well,
what
yeah,
we
she
think like
was young.
14-ish.
Yeah, but she was pregnant with Jesus when Judas, the and I'm gonna mess up his last name, but he came in, not Judas that betrayed Jesus, but the Judas that like overthrew Herod in 4 BC. And then there was a massive Roman attack, and they literally crucified, according to the records. In 4 BC.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was a massive.
From what?
Oh,
Oh.
for some reason. But anyways, there were like 2,000 crucifixions up and down the road. I personally think that Mary might have had like a major influence on Jesus when he was growing up. Like, dude, don't cause another attack rebellion like this Judas who overthrew Herod and caused all these crucifixions. You know, I don't know. I mean, that's my own theory. Sorry, I had to throw that in there because the thing about Mary just blows my mind. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I think your wife asked a question just
Yeah,
before you.
sorry. Go ahead.
I think if I'm trying to remember back, my question was like,
How do you go to
how do you go from a man who existed and maybe had really good ideas and maybe even
Okay.
convinced people to becoming a true Messiah? And like, what do you find convincing for that argument?
Okay. Well. First of all, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then I asked you about the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Right. And I said
Simply.
I for sure could see the crucifixion,
Mhm.
not so much convinced about a resurrection. I think that there can be
Okay.
explanations for
Just
that.
because
But that's like
resurrections are
three, like we don't have to
supernatural.
talk about all of that at once.
Right.
Mhm.
Resurrections are pretty supernatural and like
Right. A crucifixion is a
magic.
thing that we know happened. A
Happened.
resurrection is more magical. Right.
I agree with you. But I would say that that is the first biggest point that I believe. Because not only do I believe he's the Messiah, but I believe he's God in human form. He came down on earth for several reasons. You know, the funny thing, um, is it Mr. John, right? Is that right?
Josh.
Josh. Yeah.
Josh, okay. Josh and
Adele.
Adele. Okay. Josh and okay, I remember that. The funny thing, I had a Bible study today and we spoke about this. And I remember Josh said God of the Old Testament is, is different. There are
Mm-hmm.
more laws and stuff, and Jesus is more, on the subtle side. Love
Right?
your neighbor as yourself. Go
For
and
the most
sin no
part,
more,
unless you
things
read
like that.
Revelation.
Exactly. And actually, we spoke about the fact that God is the same in the Old Testament as He is in the New Testament. So Jesus, even though the manifestation of His works were less, should I say, severe as the God of the Old Testament, He was actually in the same manner. I don't know if you guys can read scripture right now. Are you?
We
Are you?
can. Would you like us to pull
Yeah,
something
yeah,
up?
yeah, yeah.
Can you
We
read
can put it on the screen. Hold on one second and tell
sure,
us what you want to talk about.
Matthew 22 verse 36 to 40?
Matthew 22, you said 36?
Yes, to 40.
Okay. 1 second, we'll pull it up.
Perfect. Okay, yep. Let me try to share my screen here real quick. And also, we have a couple other people in the guest box. Feel free to hang on if you want to. But yeah, we appreciate you guys jumping in to join here.
And by the way, is there a limited time so that I can
Not at
hurry up?
all.
No,
We're good.
no, we're having a
Okay.
great
Sure.
conversation. We'd
Yeah,
love to
appreciate
chat
it.
some more.
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, do you want to read this or do you want me to read this?
I can read.
Okay, cool. And we're
Teacher,
Good, because I
which
like to hear you talk.
yeah. Okay. Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest? That was I believe a young man asking Jesus at the time. And Jesus said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law of the prophets. So, in the entire New Testament, I can say these are the two main laws that Jesus gave to the people. And these laws are very far from, okay, don't kill, don't be jealous. But if
I
we
can
actually
agree with that, but can I interject?
go ahead, yes.
I believe that there is a verse that I'm pretty sure my husband is looking up where Jesus is in the New Testament and he's saying that he did not come to abolish the law of
Mm-hmm.
Moses, but he came to
Yeah,
fulfill the law.
exactly.
So the fact that he says that these two are most important doesn't mean that he negates any of the laws that preceded them that came
Very
from
true.
Yahweh.
Very true. You're perfectly right. I was about to say
Okay.
that these
Okay.
laws are not
So this
different.
isn't exclusive. You don't believe that this like replaced it all.
No. This
Okay.
he said on the last one, on verse 40, he said, on these two commandments hang all the law of the prophets. So what Jesus is saying here is that all the laws that were given by Moses and the prophets hang on these two laws. If we can we read Exodus chapter 20
Mhm.
quickly? And
Absolutely.
I will show you that it's the same things.
Exodus 20.
Yeah.
Cool.
So in Exodus 20, this is basically when Moses went on the Mount Sinai and he was given the Ten Commandments.
Mhm.
And we'll read from verse 1, I believe, to 16 or 17. And
Okay.
you will see the Ten Commandments, and I will explain how they're the same. So,
Okay.
first one, verse 2. Let's start from verse 2. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall not have any other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents to the third and fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the thousand generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord God. You shall not use God's name in vain, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor. No, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your male and female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. There is
Oh, did you
more.
want to keep going down, or is
Yes,
that
there's
kind of?
more. It's
Oh
almost.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're good.
Yeah. Honor your
Oh,
father
yeah,
and
he
mother.
skipped
Oops, sorry.
commandments.
So, from the first half of the commandments, we see commandments about like, you know, honoring God, not having any other God before Him, not making idols, not using His name in vain, honoring the Sabbath day. So the first four commandments is actually the first commandment that Jesus gave, which is love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. I don't know if you see the correlation a little bit.
Oh yeah, I can see. I definitely can. It's interesting. It's a little conditional, though. Like, it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's very selective, right? It's
Mhm.
like God is love if
Yeah,
those people love Him,
true.
but He's going to judge and strike down the people who don't necessarily love Him or put Him first. Well, and there's like the male and female slaves thing, but but and you can obviously argue the fact that, like, well, back then there were female slaves, so it's like you also got to keep them in line.
Hmm.
But I go ahead. What are your thoughts on?
The very first question that pops into my mind is, why do we need to have God's perfect commandments also reinforce slavery?
That is a good question. This verse does not, in fact, reinforce slavery.
Well, it just says you, your daughters, or your male or female slaves.
Okay, let me give you an illustration. Two illustrations, actually. If God is actually a loving God, do you think He would force us to love Him?
Well, that's essentially the idea, because if we don't, then we burn in hell forever.
It's kind of like if I said, like, if
L-
Adele and I were like dating,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a brother,
Yeah,
and I went to her brother and said, dude, we've been friends for a while.
yeah.
Uh, I really like your sister, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give her two choices.
Okay,
Either she chooses to love me and loves me, or I'm gonna throw her in the basement and light her on fire forever. It's like,
okay.
that's a little crazy. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I understand. I understand. But
it makes it feel like
in
it's less of a choice and more of a coercion.
Or like blackmail or something. Blackmail is not the right word. It's like, what is
No,
it?
coercion.
Yeah,
Like
ultimatum.
there's a bad consequence if you don't do X.
okay, I mean, yes, we can always argue about that, about the punishment of not believing in God, but that's a different case. But j just for the sake of,
Sure, we don't
this
have to go
verse,
there right now. We
Yeah,
can
yeah,
yeah.
go
yeah, yeah,
back to,
yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
Do you think it would be loving for God to force us to do something, in your opinion?
No,
No,
No.
that's
as
Okay.
part of
well
the
as I mean,
problem in
no.
my mind.
I would
Right
just answer
answer.
that as a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you in the sense that if God has to force us to love us, then it's not actually love.
Right.
So God made all these laws actually to reveal our flaws. All the laws that were given to Israel were meant to reveal that man is not good and has fallen short of the glory of God and cannot save himself. And we need a savior. Because I can tell you for a fact, all the kings, all the prophets, all the judges, all the priests have all sinned. So these laws were not given to us with the expectation that we keep them perfectly because no one did.
Oh,
Yes,
good.
Miss Adele.
Uh, question.
Yes.
Do you believe that God is all knowing?
Sure, he's all knowing, all
So
powerful.
why would he create people knowing that they might not love him, or that they might not believe in him, or that they might be imperfect, or that they might need, like, I don't know, flooded and killed and restarted? Like, wouldn't he have known to do better?
That is a very good question. But I think because he knew that, he gave us the option to choose right from wrong. And he
But is
said
it
it
really an
repeatedly.
option if the alternative is eternal hellfire?
I mean, if you're driving 100 um kilometers per hour on the highway, and there's a car in front of you, and you either brake or keep speeding, you have to pick one. Like, I don't think as human beings you have the power to decide not to die. Everyone is going to die.
But
That's
that's I don't know that that's completely analogous because you're comparing humans and we're talking about an all-knowing God.
yeah.
So an all-knowing God wouldn't have to be put in a situation with an ultimatum. And he wouldn't have to create a
Well,
situation with an
can
ultimatum.
I
Yeah, of course.
can
Yeah.
I jump in
Yes.
Give
because
me 1 second. I'll be right back.
so one of the things, this was one of the things that like was a problem that I had, and why I kind of like it challenged my faith when I was a Christian.
Hmm.
And for anybody who's on here that wonders whether or not I was actually a Christian, the fact that I used the word challenged my faith should show you that I was actually a Christian, because people that aren't Christians don't even know what that means, right? Challenge your faith.
Yeah, and and
People have
and
had their faith challenged, and I had
Mr.
my faith
Just,
challenged. Yeah,
if I can say something, a lot of
absolutely.
people
Go ahead.
say,
Yeah.
you know, I believe you can't, once you're saved, you're always saved. Now, it doesn't mean that there are not periods where you struggle. So people that say you weren't really Christian, I don't really agree with that. I mean, there are some challenges. I still
There's
believe you can
challenging
come back to
verses. Yeah.
God. Yeah, there are some periods of time where you don't believe, and you are actually on the right path. The fact that you're seeking the truth and you're not just believing something blindly, you're on the right path. So yeah, I don't believe
Yeah.
people that say, "Oh, you weren't Christian." No, it doesn't mean.
I appreciate that. I
Thank
appreciate that.
you.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
very honest of
one of
you.
the things that challenged my faith was like, okay, so I'm gonna share, okay, so Numbers 23:9. I'm gonna share this if it's okay. Like see if I can pull this up. Okay, so this is Numbers 23:19. And everyone, I think, pretty much believes this truth about God, and not just the Christian God, but if you believe in like an now, interestingly enough, ancient gods, they were benevolent and malevolent, right? But most people
Hmm.
today think that God is benevolent, all loving
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
So and all knowing, right? So to Adele's point, like this verse is perfect. It says God is not a human being that he should lie, or a
Yeah.
mortal that he should change his mind.
Hmm.
Has he promised and he will not do it? Has he
Yeah.
spoken and will he not fulfill it? So like
Yeah.
this is what I believed. Like I was like God, if God knows everything, future forward, future backwards, like
Yeah.
the way I looked, actually, a philosophical guy that I didn't even know like about before, but he like related it to a slice of bread, to a loaf of bread. It's like God
Okay.
knows the beginning of the bread and the end of the bread, and all the slices in between. You know what I mean? Like he knows everything.
Yeah.
But then the part that challenged me were some of these verses, like so Genesis 6:6, where
Hmm.
it said like the Lord was sorry that he made humans on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So this was, of course, before the flood.
Hmm.
So he saw that mankind was evil,
Yeah.
and he was sorry that he even made them. It's like, how is an all-knowing God? It's like, man, I really thought I was going to get it right this time. You know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's that's you bring in a very good argument in the sense that if God already knew it will happen, why is he reacting in this manner?
Why does
And
he
I
have to
think,
react at all?
yeah, that's one thing I think it's hard to comprehend is the fact that God isn't stoic, but God actually feels, and how to put it in words. He actually um wow. Actually, just to say, my first language is French, so
Oh no, you're doing
Oh
yeah,
great.
my goodness,
yeah,
yeah, you sound fantastic, and your English is excellent.
yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, what's the word? Okay, God feels emotions as well. God is rejoices
He's
when we
kind
do
of like
good.
interacting, like he's in, it's like he's above time, but he's
Yeah,
also interacting with time.
exactly. You got it right perfectly. He can be angry, he can rejoice, he can be saddened. And here he says that he was saddened because man became evil. And
But did
the
he not know
fact
that
that,
would happen?
yeah, that's a good question. But I would like to say, first of all, that the fact that he
And
was saddened when it happened doesn't mean he didn't know that. it will happen.
So
Like
why
the
would he
emotion
create
is
us to
different
sadden
from the
him? Why
knowledge
wouldn't he
of the.
create us to not make him sad?
That's the thing. Like God created us with a choice. If He created us without a choice, that will not be love.
But our only choice is believe in him or hell.
Not to get off topic, but I will say one thing that's interesting to me is that if if I if so so if you look in through the Bible at like the evolution of hell and
Hmm.
eternal damnation, right? Which by the end of the New Testament, it is fully baked out where it is eternal hell.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's much argument there. But it did evolve, right? So in the Old Testament, it was like you died, you went to the sleepy place, and then it was slightly baked in the new, like the first part of the New Testament. Paul has some like thinking that the physical dead are going to raise, and
Hmm.
then by Revelations, people are going in the eternal lake of fire with all the angels that fell from heaven in the book of Enoch.
Yeah.
um it did it definitely it evolved. Now you could say that it was just God revealed it over time, and that's
Hmm.
totally fair. um but I just think it's interesting, like that God would God would punish a person, a finite being. Okay, so if let's say I live to the age of 80, which my family's male history, Adele wants me to live to 180. But if I die at 80,
He
so
always
Yeah.
tells me how
I
he's going to die
I
first, and I
I
hate when he talks
I
about it.
let's say I live all the way to 80, right? And that's
Yeah.
like this long, right? Well, really, what I'm going to compare it to is like this long. And
Yeah.
I am unconvinced. Let's say I didn't ever choose God, so I was never once convinced, right? And
Hmm.
I wasn't convinced Jesus was the savior, and then I die, and then I'm going to be burned alive forever. Like the hands go past the screen, right? You're burned for actual ever
Hmm.
because you did something like this. I'm like, that is harsh. Like if my kids did something horrific, like horrific, I
Yeah.
might like be happy that they go to jail. I might
Yeah.
even be happy if it was like an atrocity. Maybe they have to go on like death row or something, or get the death
Well, I
penalty.
mean, and that's a whole other debate. Let's not
But
even go there.
right,
Let's
right,
just
right.
say
But I wouldn't light them on fire for all eternity. Like that's the
I still
opposite of
think that
love.
any kind of punishment should have justification and
Fit the
fit the
crime.
crime. And if the crime is that you're not convinced, an infinitesimal suffering seems
Pretty hardcore. Because here's the
harsh.
thing, like I didn't leave Christianity because I wanted to. It's not like I all of a sudden was like, I want to do something that the Bible tells me I can't do. Because honestly, when I was a Christian, I probably lived a less moral life than I technically do now, because when I was a Christian, it's like you always kind
Mm.
of want to test the boundaries a little bit,
Yeah.
But and I was a good person, and definitely a good person now. Like I'm a humanitarian, so I believe in helping people. And there's people out there that have lived amazingly wonderful lives that don't believe in Jesus, and they've lived
Okay.
like self-sacrificial,
And the
beautiful
alternative,
lives.
I know plenty of people who are Christians that I think are wonderful people. And just because I don't agree with them doesn't mean I think that they're not living a beautiful life too. I don't think
Right.
that's mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
And
But
David seems like an incredible person.
right, exactly. But it's just
Hmm.
interesting that like and I don't want to say the doctrine, the scripture says that if you don't believe, those who don't believe will get eternally, burned. It just seems like super harsh or something. I don't know. It's kind
Yeah.
of weird.
Yeah. You said a lot, and you
Sorry,
make
No,
a
yeah.
lot of
yeah.
We'll
sense. No,
turn
no,
you
no.
back over. Sorry.
You make a lot of sense. I'm really enjoying this. What you're saying is very true. First, I think the first point was how can the punishment for such a short life on earth be eternal? It seems like a bit much. And
Mhm.
also the fact that they are good people. You don't have to be Christian to be a good person. Okay, I would like to speak on first the second part, on the being good part. If there is no reason to be good, why are you good?
I love that question. So if there's no reason to be good, why am I good? I personally, Actually, I'm gonna let Adele answer first. I'm
Well,
interested in your thoughts on
is
that.
that okay if
Yeah.
I jump in?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Are we talking about like what I think is good? Are we talking
Yeah,
about what I
being a
think is
good person in
moral?
your own words, yeah.
Okay.
Why
So
do you be good if there is nothing at the end at death? Why must you put all that
I
extra
would
effort to be a good
illustrate it
person?
with a counter question. Do I
Okay.
need to stab you for you to know you don't want to be stabbed?
Do you need to stab me for me to know that I do not want to be stabbed? No, you
Or
do
do
not
you
need to stab.
inherently know that that would be a bad thing?
Yeah, I inherit. Oh wow.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I know.
Inherently,
Yeah, I
right.
know.
You already know that you don't want that because you know that that would be bad.
Yeah.
Okay? So based on my experience with other people in my life,
Mm-hmm.
based on my exposure to the world around me, and based on my genuine care for humanity. I care about the people in my life deeply. The people that know me personally would tell you they call me a collector for a reason. I make friends and bring them into my fold everywhere I go because I truly believe that humans are beautiful. I truly love
Yeah.
taking care of the people in my life. I don't attribute that to a God. I attribute that to the fact that I want to see the best for the people around me.
Yeah.
And I know that if it would be bad for me, it would be bad for those people. So, like, it's a
Mm.
little bit the golden rule, but to me, it's almost too simple. Like, I don't need you to spill my blood to know I don't want to spill your blood.
So essentially, you're saying you're good because you know how it feels to be good, or you know how it feels to be
Both.
bad.
Like, I obviously, we've all experienced bad things. I don't have to experience every bad thing to know if it's bad or not. But I've experienced both good and bad. And I want to try to exert as much good to the people around me as I can.
Makes sense. Just to put that in, you actually just said what Jesus said. You love your neighbor as yourself. So you do what you think is good to others.
But I think that that was said by people before Jesus, to be fair.
Yeah,
I
Jesus was not the first to
I
say
won't
it.
disagree with that. But now I have another question on the same point.
I mean, I mean, it's a little bit irrelevant. We could look that up if we wanted to.
It's
I
Hillel,
happen to know
Caduceus,
that
and Buddha.
that was in other historical religious writings before it was in the Bible.
Sure. That's fine. That's fine.
Sure.
But now, how do you decide what is good or not?
Personal experience for the most part.
So you would say morality is subjective?
Subjective.
Okay. That's where we disagree. I think it's objective. I think that
So I would argue, where do you find the objective morals?
from the one who created us with inner morals.
So the God that says we can own slaves and stone women?
No, that God didn't say to own slaves or to stone women.
Well, I disagree with that. It's in the book.
It is in the book. Yes, we didn't finish on that point. But it's part of the book. But actually, God never commanded us to have those things. He just
Yes, he
gave
did.
laws.
Actually, he did.
He did command to have slaves.
Yes. And he told us
Okay,
how to
I
have them
disagree
and
a
how to
little bit.
treat them and how long to have them.
Sure, he gave laws on how to handle
Well,
them.
why didn't he just give us laws on why not to have them?
That is a very good question because God worked with people in the time, and
Why
despite the
didn't
fact that,
he knows better than that though, right?
yes, he does, but despite the
So
fact that men are wicked, he
I
still worked with
I
them.
mean, if we're still wicked, why is it different now than it was then? Like, if slavery is bad now, it should always have been bad, and he should always have said that. If he was a just and loving God, he would never have allowed it.
God did not allow slavery.
Yes,
He
he did.
just gave laws around it.
He commanded it.
When you say he commanded it, how do you mean? Do you mean he gave laws around how to keep slaves, or he
Yes.
told people to make
And he
slaves?
told them to do it.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, can you pull up a verse for us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so okay, a couple things. Okay, hold on, I can try this one. Make sure I get the right verse here. Oops. So there's a couple spots. So I was actually going a whole different route. I was pulling up a verse where Jesus commanded them to stone to death children. But
Oh.
we'll go the slavery route first.
We don't need to go every route.
Yeah,
That's what we
there's
have
a lot
all
of
let's
night.
go the slavery
Yeah.
route first.
okay, slavery
Yeah.
route.
That's
There are
what we were
many,
talking about.
there are so
This
many
is a good
things.
one.
Right. Okay, so we'll start with this
Oh,
one.
your screen is
Yeah,
shared.
I'm gonna share her real quick. Can I throw this up? And I'm gonna make it really short. The reason why
Okay.
I believe that where morality comes from, if I don't believe in God, is that I think that people were like any sort of if evolution is true, or any form of evolution is true,
Yeah.
certain types of animals, like herd animals, know that if they herd together, they protect themselves from predators. And if they help each other, even sometimes at the expense of their own selves, that other creature can help them. And so instinctually, I actually think that like helping other people is like an instinctual thing, because it not only helps us, but it helps the herd. It's like a herd mentality almost. But anyways, that I just want to throw
Well, that's a good point too. It's like, what's the best
it
for
doesn't
like
have to be a god and necessarily that like makes
for the greater good.
right.
Right.
Okay, so this is Leviticus 25:44 through 46, and we can expand it too, but I actually have a whole list. I have a list of them we can go through. So this one says, so this is God. Now, so if you look at the ancient laws, so we're talking about there's multiple actually.
Yeah.
There's like the Hittite laws.
Okay.
There's actually the Egyptians didn't really have this. The Hammurabi laws.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of them. If you line them all up, they're very, very similar. So like what's interesting, and to your point, which I agree with, you said of the time, right? So like if you're talking to the people of the time, this is how
Not
you
exactly.
address it, right?
I didn't say that it was slavery was right at the time. I just said that God gave the laws that you're about to present in order for the people that had slaves to handle the slaves.
So
Not
But
that it was
why?
right at the time.
I still have a problem with that. I understand the apologetic, and I think that that's kind of the only way around it, but I don't necessarily agree with it. But is it okay if we read this and then dive
Sure,
deeper into that?
yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
So this is Leviticus 25:44 through 46.
Okay.
There's more in Deuteronomy, but it says, as for the male and female slaves whom you may have,
Mm-hmm.
it is from the nations around you that
Mm-hmm.
you may acquire. So it's not saying just the ones that you already have. And keep in
Okay.
mind, this is after he's already saved them from Egypt as slaves. So it's like,
Mhm.
you guys were slaves, so this whole do unto others as you would have them do unto you thing was just not part of this verse. It was like,
Sure.
but by the way, if you acquire
Mm-hmm.
slaves, it is from the nations around them that you may acquire male and female slaves. You
Mm-hmm.
may also acquire them from among the aliens, the non-Israelite people
Mm-hmm.
living with you, and from their families who are with you,
Yeah.
who have been born in your land. They
Mm-hmm.
may be your property. So it's not like they can come and work for you and like, you can just give them food and shelter. No, they are your human property. And then it
Mm-hmm.
says you may keep them as a possession. So this is like owning a human. You can own a human, and by the way, and
then pass them down to your
we're
children.
embarrassed to say that we're from the United States of America, and there were people in the 1800s that used this exact verse to justify the Atlantic slave trade, which is despicable in my opinion. It said, you may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. So they are property. These you may treat as slaves, but as for your fellow Israelites, so as for your fellow, and I hate to say this because everyone always puts things on themselves as like thinking internally, but as for you, 1800 white person, you don't do this to your other fellow people. No one shall rule over you with harshness. It's like that is just if I'm the omniscient God who knows all the future and all the past, I'm saying in this like slice of bread right here where I had a chance to like not add this law, I would pull that law out and I would put a new law in. And what would be interesting is if I did that, if I added a law that was different than the Hammurabi laws, than the Hittite laws. And I said, oh, by the way, get rid of your slaves, set them free, and treat them as equals. If
Yeah.
I was God, that's what I would do. And that's my view of Jesus. If Jesus was really God, he would have said something different than this. That's why I just don't reconcile the Holy Trinity thing, because I just don't feel like Jesus and God are the same person.
I fully agree with you in the sense that when you read these passages, it's sounding as if God is commanding us to go take slaves and giving us the right to acquire slaves. I can't deny the fact that, I mean, obviously having slaves is terrible. But what I can say in this passage, if we can read up until verse 40, I believe 49, I just got it, I think it was Leviticus 25. If we can read up until verse 48.
Absolutely. Hold on, let me go Leviticus 44 through 48. Let me go up to 48. Oh, here, I'll go 49 just to make sure we get through. Here we go. Okay, so we'll go down to 47. Okay. So if
Yeah.
a resident alien among you prosper, if resident aliens among you prosper, and if any of your kin fall into difficulty with one of them and sell themselves to an alien, so a non-Israelite, or if a branch of the non-Israelites family, even after they have sold themselves, they shall have the right of redemption. One of their brothers may redeem them, or their uncle or their brothers may redeem them. Wait, what? Or their uncle or their uncle's son may redeem them, or anyone of their family who is of their own flesh may redeem them, or if they prosper, they may redeem themselves. So you know the concept of redemption is giving up oneself to free another person.
How do you mean?
So redeem means so that's why Jesus in the New Testament was called the Redeemer, is because he gave his life to save the lives of others. So if somebody, okay, so let's go back into this. So this is interesting. So if a non-Israelite among you gets wealthy or prospers, and if any of your own Israelite people, so again, I'm not going to draw this back to my own people. If your own people fall into difficulty with one of the non-Israelites and sell themselves to a non-Israelite, so this is not chattel slavery. Because here's the thing, back then when it says you could sell your, and this we can get into in Deuteronomy, but I could back then as the man, because women were property also. If I was a male Israelite back then, and we can go to these verses as well, if I sold my daughter to another nation because I needed money, and there's somebody in the Canaanite land that needs my daughter and will pay me for her, I can sell her.
Okay.
But then I'm like, you know what? I want her back.
Okay.
Then I have the right of redemption, and the right of redemption is one of my brothers can redeem them, or my uncle, or my uncle's son.
Somebody has to.
Someone who is of my own flesh may redeem them. In other words, give themselves to get her back. So this is the next clause, right? It's like a legal clause. So basically, the whole clause, if you look from like the very beginning, when we go up to like 44, the beginning is God's law clause is you can take slaves from other nations. Yes.
You can pass them down.
As much as you want, you can pass them down to your kids. They're your property. Now, however, clause number 2, if you need some money and you see someone in Canaan who's wealthy and you need to sell your daughter because you're hard up on cash, and then down the road, you're like, crap, I want my daughter back. It's been like 5 years and now I'm okay. I got my money. The way to get her back is you can give your son or your uncle's son in her place. That's a redeemer, and you can get them back. So that's clause 2. It's still messed up.
I agree with you. It is
Because I shouldn't be
messed
able
up.
to sell my daughter in the first place.
It is messed up. I fully agree with you. But that is one way for redemption.
Yeah, but why wouldn't God, if he had like the whole loaf of bread,
like if you could make anything that you wanted, if you were all
a loving God, an all-loving.
Why would you make it this way?
I mean, we can easily fall into an infinite like why loop.
Right, and why? Because then you get
I
into
can't
Job.
have all the answers, but all I can say to you is that God gave a way out here. There is a way out, and
He gave a way out to the Israelites.
He gave a way out
There
to a
was
certain
no
type of
way out.
people,
There
and
was
it still required a sacrifice.
there was no way out for the other people. So here's my question, and it all
there
ties
is
back to
actually
Jesus.
there is.
Go ahead,
Can
go
you
ahead.
read verse 50 before you jump to the
50?
next one? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we gotta expand our search real quick.
I'll go 52 just to make sure. By the way, I appreciate immensely the fact that you look at verses and passages in context.
And
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your honesty and your
Yes, thank you.
And
You're welcome. Thank you too.
Yeah.
Okay, so
candor is great.
50. Okay, so they may redeem themselves. Okay, 50.
They shall compute with the purchaser.
They shall compute with the
No, sorry, from verse 49. Sorry.
Oh, 49. Sorry. Okay, so let's take it from 48 where we left off. So even if they have sold themselves, they shall have the right of redemption. One of their brothers may redeem them, or their uncle's son may redeem them, or any of their family who is of their own flesh may redeem them. Or if they prosper, they may redeem themselves. So if for some reason they make enough money, they can free themselves. And again, only Israelites, right? So they shall compute with the purchaser the total from the year when they sold themselves to the alien until the year of Jubilee, or the Jubilee year, which was every 7 years, right? The time they were with the owner shall be rated as the time of the hired laborer. So this is great because this is, again, another excellent law clause where it's like it's calculating the amount of payment that it takes to free a slave, a human property that an Israelite sold into a non-Israelite community. So again, keep in mind, this is only Israelites selling humans into non-Israelite communities can be eventually bought back, and this is calculating the price of the purchase back. Now, the non-Israelites that they acquired from other nations, there's no clause about that. You can keep reading down all of Leviticus. There's no way that a non-Israelite gets bought back, sent back. They're just screwed. Now, there is technically in Deuteronomy, there is technically a male can leave,
but he has to leave his wife.
He has to leave his wife and family. The wife and family.
I think
kind of
verse 50 also talks about a non-Israelite. It's not only about Israelites.
How do you?
Nope. It's just Israelites. So, okay, so right here.
Well, he said 50.
Yeah, I know, but you got to, it says they, so we've got to find the pronoun. So it says,
they is like the slave and their buyer.
Okay, he's saying if resident aliens among you prosper.
Yes, they can redeem themselves by being purchased. But what it's saying is
that an Israelite can sell themselves to an alien, and then it's saying that they can redeem themselves from said alien. It's not saying that the alien itself can ever be redeemed.
Okay, can we read from 47? I can read.
Yeah, we'd love to. Go ahead.
Okay. If a foreigner residing among you becomes rich, and any of your fellow Israelites become poor and sell themselves to the foreigner or to a member of the foreigner's clan, they retain the right of redemption after they have sold themselves. One of their relatives may redeem them. An uncle or cousin or any blood relatives in their clan may redeem them. Or if they prosper, they may redeem themselves. They and their buyer are to count the time from the year they sold themselves up to the year of Jubilee. The price for their release is to be based on the rates paid to a hired worker for that number of years.
And can I pause right there, because we're still just talking about the Israelite that got sold. We're not talking about the person that was acquired by the Israelites. And you can go back up to 48.
Right here it says,
or 47.
If your kin falls into difficulty and has to sell themselves to an alien,
right? We're talking about
once they become prosperous again, they can redeem themselves. This doesn't talk about anyone outside of the Israelites. So again,
if you're a special chosen people that only God chose, so out of the entire earth, God chose like a little. Let's say, pick a country, France. God chose France, and French people, if you sell one of your children to a foreigner, you may, through these laws and through this cost calculation, purchase your child back. That's cool. But it
Yeah.
doesn't say anything. In fact, it goes against if you, France, acquire, and sorry, French people, if there's any French people on the line, I'm not picking on
He
you.
just said his native language was French.
Damn it. Sorry. I should have used a different country.
No problem. That's fine.
Canada. Sorry, Canada. Canadians. If there's anyone from Canada that like acquires someone from the United States, those United States people are just stuck. Like there's no law to get them back but this is about your native kin because God chose Canada. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know how you determine. Now, this would be outside of the biblical because we can slice and dice the Bible.
Right.
But outside of that, why did God choose Israel? It's a tiny little, like, it's a blip on a map back then. It's like, why did God chose this tiny little country and say, you're the one, everyone around you, you can genocide. Like, in fact, he commanded them to genocide the countries around them to take the land. Why did God do that? Why did he cause them to do that?
Wow. You guys are asking very, very, very the furthest from a close question possible.
No, I
Very big
appreciate.
question.
Okay,
Wow.
so
Okay.
to be fair, David, this is the kind of questions that we asked ourselves, and that's why we're
Mhm.
like here. Because the more you, or at least I don't want to say you, the more that we personally asked these questions, the more
Mhm.
questions came up. And I'm
Okay.
not saying that we have found all the right answers. That's kind of why we want to have conversations about it.
Okay.
But I think that you and I could agree that there are
Okay.
issues with the text. And we don't have to believe that the Bible is infallible, and that's okay.
Okay.
But I still need to know why I need to input a higher power when I feel like I can find it in other places.
You can find what in other places?
The reason to live, the reason to care for other people, the reason to take care of my family. I don't necessarily see a need for a God that threatens me with eternal hellfire.
Okay. I think we discussed so many things.
We have,
But
and we can cut it here. Like,
sure. No. It's fine. It's fine. I will answer your question. I was gonna say that there's so many things we're discussing. I think we went to the commandments. We're speaking about
we
how
have been all over the
Jesus's
place,
laws
and
were
I hope
similar.
that we get a chance to talk
But
again. I know we can't
no,
talk
that's fine.
forever tonight, and I
That's
have
fine.
no
Yeah.
idea what time it is where you are, and I'm not cutting you off. I'm just saying, even if we don't get to everything that we've brought up, I hope we get a chance to talk again because this has been
Yeah.
incredibly
Yeah.
intriguing to me.
I really enjoyed today's conversation. I'm not saying that, oh, I didn't get the chance. No, I really appreciate the conversation. And rightfully so, the conversation took a direction because there are some things in the text that are questionable. We can't ignore them, which is true. And
Right.
sometimes I don't have all the answers. I have to be honest. So, but to answer your question, why must there be a higher power?
So, like, have you
Even
ever heard the phrase "the God of the gaps"?
no.
So, the idea behind that phrase is that because you don't know the answer to something, you just kind of insert God. So, like, if I can't
Mm,
answer where did we all come from or why are we here,
yeah.
the answer is because God, because we don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Instead of just saying maybe I don't know, or
yeah.
maybe I haven't learned enough about the Big Bang, or I mean, there's a
Okay.
thousand different things you could say, but the God of the gaps just kind of inserts him into the things you don't know enough about or that make you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of just trying to like pick at that a little bit to say, why does it have to be God, even
I
if we don't know
agree
the
with you. Yeah.
answer?
Yeah, I agree with you, but the problem now is all the answers I'll give you are from the Bible, and I'm not sure you. I mean, you are out there like you're gonna believe me, but I will still give them to you.
That's
Um,
okay. Well, here's the thing. Okay, if you don't believe the Bible is infallible, if you admit that there are faults in it, or if you admit that there are things that are tough, then
mhm.
how do you know which parts you do believe in and where do you draw the distinctions?
Wow, that's another question. Okay, can I answer the first question? I will answer
Yes.
this one. No problem. I can speak all day long about this. I'm fine. The first question, why look for God if you can find the meaning for life in other things? The simple answer I can give you is the fact that human beings, first of all, we are not all knowing. That's one. We are not all powerful. That's two. And we are not um, omnipresent. We are not everywhere at the same time. We have a limited time on Earth, like Mr. Josh said, and we have something to do. We were born for a reason. I think in the beginning I was asking questions about science, and science says that energy is neither created nor destroyed. That's
Yeah, I would
science
agree with that.
apart from the Bible. So people that believe there is no God and the world just came from nothing, there was a Big Bang all of a sudden. I mean, the Big Bang does not contradict exactly God because
I would argue that I don't believe the Big Bang says that everything came from nothing.
I mean, it came from, a primordial soup or something, then
Well,
life formed.
actually, I disagree with that too. So I
Yeah,
believe
I
in the
just want
Big
to
Bang,
interject,
Big
and I don't want to
Crunch.
like
Yeah,
derail you, but that's not quite
yeah.
what we think the Big Bang means.
Okay,
So
can you
just
give
to
me in a
clarify,
nutshell
our
what
belief
the
in the
Big
Big
Bang is?
Bang is that there has just been an eternal like big crunch, an expansion.
And when a person says that, how can the universe have existed forever? I would say, how could God exist forever? Like, if you
Okay.
take God out of the equation, so this is the part that was interesting to me, is
Mm-hmm.
that I spent okay, so let's just say realistically, so if I went to college, I started arguing on forums with apologetics when I was 18, and I
Mm-hmm.
stopped when I was 33. So however many
Okay.
years that is, because I'm bad at math. Uh,
Yeah.
I spent that many years arguing about why there's a God
Okay.
and why all these things that show that there probably isn't a God,
Mm-hmm.
or that there isn't, or that the Christian God is not real,
Mm-hmm.
are wrong. And I spent all that time. And then the second I removed that from the equation and I said to myself, well, wait a minute, what if there wasn't a God? All of a
Yeah.
sudden it was like, whoa, all of my problems went away. Now there weren't, I can't say all of them because I can't tell you what happened before the Big Bang because no one can see past it. We can see that there probably was a Big Bang, and I'm not a physicist, I'm not an astrologist, I'm not going to go into that because I'm not that smart. But
Mm-hmm.
but as best as we know, we can't see past the bang. But if the world is like or if the universe is continually expanding, contracting, banging because it expands, contracts, and constantly is doing this, like why is this different than believing in eternal God? Like, what is the difference between believing that the universe was eternal
And we did
versus believing in
derail him.
God?
He was on a path, and I just wanted to
Oh
clarify
yeah,
that we
sorry.
don't believe that the Big Bang means everything came from nothing all at once.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Good point.
So we can pin that. If you can remember your train of thought, I'd like to get back to it.
Yeah, that was my.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You were. I think you asked one question, then you asked another one. The first one was
I
why
did.
find God? If you can find me in
Why
other things.
insert God if it could be anything?
Yeah, and the second question, what was it? I'm also gonna answer it if I can.
Um, Let me see if I can remember because now you took
Sorry,
us on
I
a
didn't mean
tangent.
to derail.
Yeah,
Did not mean
maybe
to derail.
as I think I can remember it.
It was
Um,
oh, I don't know. We might have lost it, David.
yeah. No, I mean that's fine.
That's
But
fine.
what I was trying to say is, it
Yeah.
seems to me like Mr. Josh doesn't believe there is a God. I mean, in the beginning you said let's say there's a God, but it seems to me you don't believe there's a
He
God.
I'm
conceded there was a God for the
unconvinced. There
conversation.
could be a God that's like an alien kid, and this whole universe is a science experiment, and we're just like an atom in alien
I mean,
terms.
we could
Mm,
supposition anything
I
that
just don't know.
potentially created the
I
universe.
just don't. That's why.
I think our stance is that none of them have been convincing to us based
Okay,
on
so
the
right.
text
okay,
and based on
so
the evidence.
The Christian Bible is just so
Hold on.
full of holes. I can't believe it.
yeah,
So
so you're more an atheist than an agnostic.
at this
At
point,
this point, no.
Okay,
If
okay.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, that makes sense, and I don't have any proof to give to you that will I mean that will convince you that there's a God. I haven't seen God. And I haven't had any supernatural encounter with God that I can tell you I saw Jesus Christ, he came to my room. No.
And you know what, David, even if you did, why would that convince us more than anyone who had a supernatural encounter with Allah?
That's a good
Like, would
question.
that convince you? Or Muhammad?
And I
Or
can say that to that, I can say the spiritual realm is real. And
but they can't all
demons,
be real.
they can't all be real, exactly. And demons can also appear to humans in the form of angels. Spirits can, I don't know if you know a little bit about necromancy, like people communicating with the dead. It's even in the Bible.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I think
The
I
Witch
can't
of
remember
Endor.
exactly. Sorry?
Yeah, the Witch of Endor with Saul, where Saul
Exactly.
actually
And
brings up,
I think I think it was the spirit of
Nathan.
Samuel, yeah,
Yeah,
was talking to him, but actually we understand that that spirit talking wasn't actually Samuel, but it was a spirit of darkness. But the tricky part is the spirit of darkness didn't lie. The spirit of darkness said the truth. But the problem was that that's a whole different story. That's a whole
but
different
the
story.
question is, what if it's just a story?
What if it's just a story? Good question. Good question. I mean,
And I might interject here, David. I've
yeah.
loved our conversation. We have actually another person in our queue named David that's been waiting a
There's
really long
another
time.
David.
Yes.
Oh wow.
So if I can say, we don't have a set schedule yet, but if you don't mind following our channel, we'd love to talk to you again. If
Oh
you
yeah,
see
for
us
sure.
live again, David.
Thank you
This has
for
been
the
so
questions.
pleasant. You've been amazing. I've enjoyed
So
your
much.
perspective. But we're going to move on to the other David just to try to get another conversation before we have to go.
No problem. No problem.
Thank
You're
you so
amazing.
much.
I
Thank
will
you
follow
so
you
much.
if I see you on the live again. I'll if I have time.
And
I'll
please feel
come back.
free. Like you may not want to support our channel, but if you did like our conversation and you subscribe and you see that
Yeah.
we're live, we'd love to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Sure. No problem. I'll
Thank
go
you,
make
friend.
some
Thank you
research
so much, and take
come back.
care.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, awesome. Big W, David.
Big W, David, and new David.
And we
Hopefully
have
you're
a new
big W
David.
too.
Yes. And the new David that I'm going to bring in, and then I'm going to sneak away to the restroom.
Okay.
So,
leave me by myself.
Leave me by yourself.
I don't have the Bible on my.
Oh, that's okay. New David, David 2, David part 2.
Hey.
Are you over 18?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. And do you believe in a deity?
Yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And by the way, awesome for saying that you're just a Christian. Sometimes we get people that like dodge that whole conversation. It's like, no, man, just tell us who you believe in.
Thank you for waiting. Thank you for waiting out that conversation.
Oh, no,
we were just really having a good time with our other friend.
The other David, right?
Yes.
Other David.
It's David
not
night.
to make you
I am
jealous.
David Jr. now.
You're not other David. You're just the next David.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
coming
right.
right back.
There's no juniors. There's no number
I just
two.
wanted. Well, I guess you can hear me come back, but I was just scrolling through YouTube, and you guys are a lovely couple. It was.
Well, thank
great
you,
hearing
and
guys
thank
chat
you for
today.
joining.
That was
We
cool.
really appreciate that. So, I don't have. He's kind of the Bible guy.
Sure.
I'm kind of the. I don't know what you call me.
You have great points. I mean,
Thank you. I appreciate it. But I mean, if you just want to start with some small talk, tell me a little bit about what you think. Tell me a little about why you believe. If you just want to start, just
Sure.
kind of a conversationally, and then we can go from there.
Sure. I think, gosh, it's a lot of points, but I think for me, I kind of feel like you guys are kind of, well, I guess it goes in your title there, inquiry couple, but I was just digging and searching for a while, and I kind of put different kind of religions to a test, even the thought of just kind of those gaps. I know you were talking about God of the gaps.
Yeah.
But,
So I don't mean to interrupt you. I just
Yeah.
want to ask, like, were you searching for like content to talk to, or were you searching just in general? Like, what do you mean you were searching?
I had some people ask me if God existed, and I think
Okay.
I was agnostic at the time, and I was on a rampage to figure out if God existed, because if he did, I was like, I'm gonna really do this. If not, don't bother me with your grape juice and wafers. And all that kind of stuff.
Then right. Why am I eating these wafers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got something better to do on a Sunday. So, but it really just kept coming back to Jesus, and even outside of Christianity, it kind of has some polarization in some of these major religions, but like, why is that? And then digging into like the history, even people that didn't believe in Jesus in his era, like I don't know, like even let's say, I hate to do politics here, but and let's say Trump said something outrageous, and he's like, "I'm God." And then you have someone of
Has he
someone
not
of course
essentially said that?
he probably did. Knowing him, it's kind of the epitome of being prideful. But
hey, thank you for admitting that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But like, let's say he did just for kicks and giggles.
Sure, okay.
Obviously, knowing
So
how
run with
people,
that.
yeah. So obviously, how people just follow their politics. People are like,
Sure.
oh, for sure, and then some people
Right.
like, definitely
No
not.
questions, right? That's the problem is when you don't question, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so I was reading from the definitely nots, and definitely nots are like, well, we think he just did magic, but definitely not the Son of God, or even you see obviously even in the scriptures from the Jewish perspective. But it just kept pointing back to Jesus, for a lot. And so just kind of doing some internal research through the scriptures, but even outside of that. So that really kind of what brought me to it.
Oh, we got let's just catch Josh up to speed. David's been also very pleasant and honest. He said he was just kind of searching for the definitely nots and trying to kind of disprove definitely nots, I think, if I'm trying to summarize this. And he was supposing what if Trump tried to claim that he was.
Well, you can't ease it into that. I mean, especially how evangelicals go.
You summarize.
Goodness gracious. Throw me to the fire here.
You brought up Trump really fast, but you were fair.
Yeah.
You weren't
Yeah.
MAGA.
Yeah. That's a whole talk. But I think to summarize it, long story short, people were asking me about God specifically. And I was, I guess at the time, agnostic. I believed in a higher being of some sort, but I didn't know. I didn't really care who it was, if it's Allah, if it's whatever you say, whatever floats your boat.
So a general
Sure.
higher power.
Something,
Sure.
And I couldn't attribute that to anything outside of the time other than the gut feeling, which isn't much weight. But I wasn't really exercising a lot on things like your Big Bang Theory, morality, all that fun stuff. I was a college kid. I wasn't worried about that. And so, but I was given an example of what I researched is internally through the scriptures and some of these other religions that ironically at some point for some of them still kind of reference to Jesus. And then even some of these historians at the time who didn't really believe Jesus was God, but they believed in his existence. They're like,
Sure.
hey, he's not God, probably did some magic, some weird stuff, but not the thing. And so then I brought up the comparison to a Trump. I was just as a connector of let's say Trump say something outrageous, but probably not so outrageous for him. Be like, hey, I'm God. And then you would have some people be like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All the red hats
Oh
on.
yeah,
They're
absolutely.
like, yeah, he definitely is. He's the savior of America and the world. And but then you have anyone else be like, definitely not. This man's crazy.
Any hopefully you would say rational person.
Yeah. And so, but it gave a little bit of weight of even digging into well, the people that said no, they're like, yeah, he's not God, but he did some magic. It was like, well, hold on. What's that about? And so that's basically got me to the point. So then you jumped in, and then I became a Trump lover once you.
No, I never called you a Trump lover. I said you brought him up, but you were not a MAGA.
Yeah. No,
I apologize if it came off that way.
So
no, it's
okay.
fine.
No.
So I'm up to speed. So you're thinking so you're kind of at the point where you're like, it was Jesus like so what convinced you that Jesus was the one then? If there was if it could have been because there's been cult leaders,
Oh, absolutely.
and the disadvantage of modern cult leaders is filmed footage, right? So it's
Good
modern
point,
cult leaders
actually.
like Jim Jones, the
Yes.
David Koresh, the Doe and T from the
Yeah.
Haley's or Hale Bop thing.
Yeah.
We all know now that that's not good because we've got footage of that. But what if there was followers of those people that live? Because here's the crazy thing, and not to get on a tangent, if there's a Hale Bop documentary, and the crazy thing is, and I shouldn't say crazy because they're not crazy, nobody's crazy, but the interesting thing is that the people that they interviewed still believe in it.
Oh, absolutely.
They're we shouldn't have left. And so those are the people that would have wrote the Gospels. It's It's like, yeah, all of our friends committed suicide and died, and we got cast out before we did. We should have, and they were literally on camera. It's like on Netflix. They were like on camera saying our biggest regret is we didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's interesting.
Well, that's the interesting part. It's so funny you say that. That was part of the reason why I wanted to research it so hard, because like I don't want to be that guy. Because it's very fascinating. You see things like Jim Jones and some of the people that survived are able to tell it. They're like, well, there's something's kind of weird, but we're locked on this island here. And it seemed all great. Everything seemed like roses and blah, 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 and all that stuff.
Because it feels a little bit like a fairy tale when you feel like you're a part of something that not everybody gets.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think people, I would say for all time, but I would, in this instance, I just rush back to this Roman era, to even modern day. I mean, same thing happens with 9/11, all the stuff, right? Like they believe that people are willing to die for their faith, right?
Right. And how do you prove which ones are dying for the right religion?
Absolutely. But to that point, I think it's very interesting for these first century Christians, because they're not telling anyone to kill themselves, right? Like they're like, it's like, hey, is Jesus God or not? Like that's usually just the like there's other people murdering them. And so they're not really pushing like, hey, come and drink this Kool-Aid with me. They're just like, hey, Jesus coming back, like just repent, help those in need.
But which time is Jesus coming back? Is it the time when Paul said, don't get married because Jesus is coming right now? Or is it like one of the many times?
I see what you're saying. I was trying to see how it connected to the belief. I mean, obviously in the scriptures constantly, they're like, hey, he's coming soon.
He's right. He's coming soon. He's coming soon.
And you could say, well, what's the interpretation of that? Because if it was coming soon, he should have come 2,000 years ago at least. And so, but it's also the points where it's talking in scripture of like, I think it's in 2 Peter, it's talking about, let's pull it up because I know you guys had Bible Gateway.
We can pull. What do you want us to pull up?
2 Peter.
I can't remember. 2 Peter or 1 Peter. I need the paper Bible.
You got one. We've got one right here. If you want us to look at it too.
No, it's just.
Actually, can I hold this up real quick? Because we have someone in the chat saying that we don't read the Bible. Jody,
those are my sticky tabs.
Jody, we read the Bible all the time.
And that's just my tabbed one, not my study Bible.
This is our study Bible. This is our
So yeah, we read
the Bible literally for fun.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, that was just a tangent. If you want us to pull up a paper Bible to help you find your verse, we would love to.
In my opinion, it is the best piece of literature ever written. In my opinion, the Bible is the best piece of literature ever written.
Really?
I'd stand by that. I'm biased though because I was also raised as a Christian and I read it over and over and over. So to me, I'm biased.
Nostalgia points.
But I see the genius of it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, and that's not to say that there aren't good stories in it, and it's not even to say that there aren't good teachings in it. I think that there's a lot wrong with it, but that's a tangent from the conversation we were going down. You had something in mind. It was either 1st or 2nd Peter.
It was.
I want to make sure we get back to that.
It's the only thing I was looking for a verse is basically saying like 1,000 days or.
A day to the Lord is like 1,000 years. It's 1 Peter. Yeah.
And so the thing that I wonder is like, is it close according to what God says? It just throws out all these theories, but it's like obviously that didn't happen. But that threw me off of the initial point I was making before. Like, is he coming back soon? We were talking about apostles.
Well, and the nice thing I will say, so Adele had mentioned like, is Jesus coming back now?
Right, but he was saying that kind of got us on a tangent from what he was trying to talk about.
I think I can tie this together. So the verse that you're looking for, and everyone knows it because it's one of those verses in the Bible, where it linchpins so many things. So creationists can say that, well, the earth looks 4.5 billion years old, but a day of the Lord is like 1,000 years. So maybe every day of creation was 1,000 years, and maybe 1,000 years was a metaphor for 1 billion years, and that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And then they can also use that verse to say, well, maybe they mean he's coming back. But let's take a look at those verses because I have some of them pulled up real quick.
Okay.
Maybe. Let me see if I did this right. Oh boy. And I'm discovering this with you real quick because I had some notes from this. So I realized that this is impractical for the internet
Sure.
because I
But
can
then,
hold this
but
up to the
then,
camera.
but then on
Right,
the
yeah.
flip
We
side,
can't like
it's
Doesn't
harder to
share
search
that
online
text,
because
but we
doesn't
can
it's a
maybe try
book.
to find one
Hold
and
on,
then
I can
yeah.
find this on
Right.
Bible Gateway. Okay, hold on. Okay. So this is, and I definitely always want people to see where I'm pulling this from so they can look for themselves. Okay. This is Matthew 16, 27 through 28. Okay. And you got us on this tangent, but I think it's a great tangent. Okay.
Well, and if this is too much of a tangent, I do want to make sure we get back to David's original point, but let's read this and see if it helps connect it or
Yeah,
if
that'd
we
be good.
need to start back over.
Yeah, because I do appreciate David's philosophy on things here. Okay, so Matthew 16, 27 says, For the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everyone from what has been done. Truly I tell you, there are some standing here, so physically standing here, that will I'm saying this from memory. God, I had to memorize this. There are some standing here who will not taste death. I was actually pretty close. Before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So, okay, that's one. Let's just read through a few others before we make a judgment here. Go, unless you have something to jump in and ask.
No.
This is James 5:8. You must also be patient, strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. Now, that could mean anything. If a day of the Lord's like 1,000 years, it's been 2,000 years, that's 2 days. I would say 1 Peter negates that one. That could be 2 days to God. That one's me. I'd say.
I found the passage, by the way. But
Okay.
I think
Yeah. What is
do you
it?
want us to pull it up?
Well,
it's
yeah,
Second
hold on. I'll save
Peter
this one. And then
chapter 3. I didn't want to cut you off. I was just
No,
No,
you're
saying
good.
that
You
from my
said
own
Second Peter
ADHD
chapter
brain.
It is 2 Peter. Dang it, I was off. 2 Peter 3. What?
Specifically, it's in verse 8. But if there's,
Let's go. I always like to go like 6 through 10, just in case.
I was gonna say if we want to pull up the whole chapter because there may be something to
Dude,
pull context.
thank you for context. I always appreciate
Absolutely.
people who are like, let's read the actual context. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're saying it starts in 8 or 6?
That was a specific part I was talking about. I think maybe for 8 on down, but it says, "But you must not forget this one thing, dear friends. A day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, and 1,000 years is like a day. The Lord isn't really being slow about his promise, as some people think. No, he is being patient for your sake. He does not want anyone to be destroyed, but wants everyone to repent. But the day of the Lord," and this may tie into the passage you had in Matthew, maybe. "But the day of the Lord will come as unexpectedly as a thief, then the heavens will pass away with terrible noise," blah, blah, blah. But that's, yeah.
Can I give you my theory on this?
Sure.
It's only my theory.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think, and if you read, okay, so I would challenge anyone watching to do this. Like, even theological Bible scholars agree with most critical scholarship in the order in which the books were written. Okay, so we know that First Peter didn't come, or Second Peter didn't come before Mark. Like, even like the most fundamental Christian scholars believe that. If you read the Gospels in order, Mark, Matthew, Luke, it's debatable which one came first, John, right? Before all of those were Paul, and then the pseudo-Pauline letters, which includes like Timothy, Peter, and those other letters, it evolves. And what's interesting about it is that it evolves to where in Mark and Matthew and Luke, it's very apocalyptic. And Paul is even more apocalyptic. When you get in like Thessalonians, Paul says, and I've got these verses where it's like, don't even get married. Don't even start a new job. Don't even have a kid. God is coming like now. It's like, dude, in like the next 2 years is the essential feeling.
Sure.
He's coming. And then what happens is, and actually I did that wrong because Thessalonians was the transition. So what happens was in Thessalonians, particularly First Thessalonians, in Thessalonica, there was a problem. And if you read all of First Thessalonians, you'll see that the issue was that they were afraid because people in the church of Thessalonica were dying. And they were like, how can this possibly be? You said Jesus was coming back, but our brothers are dying. And that's when he gives the whole thing about the first of us will be caught up together with them in the clouds. And he's basically saying, like, chill out, guys. He's still coming. Some of you have died, and he says the first of us, like I'll pull that up next, but he's like, we together collectively, like Paul, myself, and you, my alive brothers, are going to go physically together with the ones who have died and be caught up together with them, not like in the future 2,000 years from now. But then what happened was, so it's a constant apologetic as you read the evolution through like the books as they get from like newest to oldest. And then by the time you get to Peter, you have this. And if you look up like when this was written, this was one of the last books because they're like, dude, it's been like 150 years. What the heck is going on? Why is he not here yet?
Okay, let's put a pin in that. David hasn't gotten a word in a minute.
My bad.
No, that's
so
fine.
I want him. No.
That's
like
great.
this was good exposition, and Josh is a Bible nerd. So once you get him going on a thing, he's gonna get going on a thing. But I want to see, 1, your thoughts on that. 2, if it's too far from your original point, and 3, where you would like this to go.
No, it's slightly off. I think the original question was like, well, in your title, like, why do I still believe?
Sure.
But I think it's a great point how it's brought up with those different cults and even what was happening in the context of these letters. But what was very interesting to me is like, well, what was the motive of these people? Like, again, even in Thessalonica, like they're the ones being persecuted, like it's constant persecution of like this first century church for just saying Jesus is God, you know what I mean? And only offense that can be is the Caesar, but it's like, what do they win? Like, what do they get? Jim Jones, every other person can start saying, at least from the Christian
every decade
offshoot something, right? You can talk about the American slavery, whatever it may be. Like, there's something advantageous when someone would twist something or whatever. But it's like for these guys, I think even also in Second Peter or First Peter, he's like, hey, like Jesus is God. Like we talked to him, we touched him, like it's him. And he's like, just like the scriptures say, but they're always the recipient of the persecution. And I was like, well, that's different. That's something to kind of take a note on. So that was one of the things that I just find kind of fascinating. And also, again, I think it's sad how Christianity's played out. I think everyone can feel the vile effects of that. Like if Christians can just be a little bit better, then it would make the message a lot better. But like,
that's a meaningful concession.
Yeah, but like first century Christians is like, what were they doing wrong? Well, to be fair, even in the letters, you read First Corinthians, guys like, hey, stop sleeping with your stepmom. What's wrong with you? But like, it's like
good rule.
But in general, like it's bringing massive levels of charity and equalization, and humanity, so it's like that for that era. But it's like they're not out persecuting people. It's just like, hey, this Jesus is coming back. And then Nero, who's already off his rocker, be like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and just burn him. And but it's like, why? So that was one of the things. So
I think I think that's good. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well,
I feel like I've been popping off.
No, I think that's so if you look at the course of history, there are a lot of people that have died for a cause.
Absolutely.
And they believed in the cause. And like even like the Halley's Comet people, right? They like go on this documentary and they're like, I don't want to say they're making a fool out of themselves because they truly believe what they believe, but they're like, would they die for it? Maybe. But there's a lot of people that have died for Muhammad. Does that make Islam correct? Like anybody who died for Vishnu, does that make Hinduism correct? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like all of these people who have thrown themselves at a cause because they truly believed it. And I'm biased because like my family was very zealous, and man, if pick a cause, my father would have thrown himself to death over it. It doesn't matter. Like, and it takes a special person to really like go there. But then the problem is when you get a bunch of people that come together about it, you almost get like a mob. And then when like a leader does it, and then you're like, well, hell, then I want to go with the leader. I mean, you get like, it's just human nature.
Well, sometimes there's just like such an overwhelming sense of, I don't know, like excitement and belonging. And not enough.
I think Paul really believed. I think if it wasn't for
after
Paul,
he hit his head,
after he bonked his head after he fell off the donkey,
Yep.
I think that I truly
David's
believe,
here for that one.
I truly believe that Paul believed, just like David Koresh believed, and I'm not actually sure if I'm supposed to say this, so actually I won't say this. But I have on authority.
I won't beat you up for it.
I have on authority that there are FBI audio tapes of the recordings of David Koresh, and I don't know if they're public or not, but when you listen to what he actually said, he believed what he was saying. He was not like,
I think those are public. I think we can talk about that.
I would have to verify that before it's on YouTube. But like, he wasn't like, David Koresh at Waco, Texas was not like, I'm trying to lead a sex cult because I'm in it for myself.
Like he
believed in like, or at least, and I'm a salesperson, so I have a BS meter. Like I believe this dude knew in his mind that it was true. Now, was he right? I don't think so. And most people probably today would say, I don't think so. Now, there was video evidence, so we can go back and we can play the tapes and we can watch the video and see what happened. But with Paul, you can't do that. So did he fall? I mean, the dude was killing, or he was orchestrating, or at least part of the killing of people. If you watch people get killed at your hand, and then you realize, wait a minute, this may have been bad, and then you have like a near-death experience, and you wake up from that, a lot could happen there.
Well, I think that's a great point, and it's so interesting. I don't get to talk about a lot of cult leaders at church, right? It's not a good Sunday morning topic. People want to talk about their kids and rough day at week.
Right, exactly.
Like, hey, well, that's Jim Jones. I thought that was a rapper.
Yeah.
And so, but I completely agree with you, and I find it interesting why one of my questions when I was trying to see if God existed, like why do people believe in God in general? Like even people who in some far off country will be cutting themselves of like to try to appease some God that may not exist, right? And it's like, why are you hurting yourself? Why do you feel like you got to do that, right? But I think it's interesting even with Paul, because obviously Paul's killing, but it's not a zealous thing, like and like a aloof thing, because he's like, I'm a Jew. These guys out here lying about God. I'm gonna do this law and I'm gonna kill these guys. I'm out here pleasing God according to the Torah.
Right.
But then he has this crazy thing. God thinks he's really special and he's not going to give anyone else the vision. But then Paul's like taking a minute. I'm reading through Galatians, but he's like, I also talked to Peter. I talked to Jesus' half brother. They were cool with it. But I'm thinking like, if I'm Peter, we know how finicky Peter can be. And he's like, and we know Paul,
super apostle.
Love this.
Right?
Super
Paul, this guy better than me. Jesus was my homeboy. And here's this random Paul guy who's this massive murderer. Why would you even accept Paul? I think that even validates the statement, the cause as well, because they're all in alignment. Even later in Peter, I think in the same book, he's like, I'm gonna have to Google it. But let's say
oh yeah, totally. That's totally cool.
About Paul's scriptures. 2 Peter 3:16. So same chapter.
Well, that won't be hard for us to pull up.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right. We started off right.
Yeah.
So yeah, 15. It says, and remember, our Lord's patience gives people time to be saved. That is what our beloved brother Paul also wrote to you with the wisdom God gave him. Speaking of these things in all of his letters, some of his comments are hard to understand, and those who are ignorant and unstable have twisted his letters to mean something quite different, just as they do with other parts of scripture. This result will be their destruction. So that's a fun ending sentence. But he's like, hey, Paul, his stuff's complex. He's weird. He's super zealous. He's Elon Musk type of autism. I don't know what his problem is, but he's telling truth, but it's like, it's like if because when I think about these cult leaders, I think in my brain when I go through some of my verses in my Rolodex, right? And you still kind of lay on these things of the unknown, but I don't mean that of
Well,
like, hey,
hopefully you do. Like, no matter if you believe it or not, like, hopefully you're still questioning all the time. I think that's
well,
the point.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think we both have well, I would assume that, and I don't think this is a moral thing or not, but I think I'll just say my frustration personally is that when people believe something and there's like, just cause, and I'm like, wait,
Right.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
don't do that. Like, why are
Yeah.
you
Thank
your
you.
whole life on this?
Yeah.
And
Good
so,
point.
Right.
and
This
then
is
I'm trying to
supposed to be the most
convince,
important thing about you. So
yeah,
why?
And
then
thank
we
you
gotta
for reading
convince
the
other
Bible,
people.
by
Yeah.
the way.
Thank you for reading the Bible. Thank you for that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But man, what was I gonna say?
We were just fangirling you.
Paul.
Sorry.
No, it's
You're talking about
fine.
No,
Paul.
you were
You're
talking about Paul and Galatians, and it was like, even like, so Peter was like questioning Paul.
Well, Peter just questions in general, right? Because he's human.
Yes.
But even
Yes.
though if it's true, right? Even at the truest, like in my personal heart, I'm like, man, I really wish God did more miracles. Help me out. But then AI came, and I was like, actually, no, never mind. It probably wouldn't have worked out for history. But like, but you kind of feel that, right? You're like, well, why, Paul? Give me something more solid, right? And but the point is, like, Paul is this mass murderer. I remember my point, and it kind of goes back to people are prone to believe something crazy, but that's not the worst part. The worst part is when they start doing something crazy, right?
Right.
Okay. I agree with
Based
that.
on what they believe.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we see that, and we see that constantly, and it probably won't stop. You'll see some televangelists, some major thing, some
Right.
Muslim thing, some new religion thing. In the verse of my Rolodex, like I see Jesus also like, hey, or don't listen to these antichrists. Like they're gonna say, hey, do this, don't do that. Like, don't do that. I'm the one, and you can't really find fault with me. I mean, it's not really what it's saying in the verses, but it's really hard to find fault with what Jesus is saying in the scriptures, right? But I think the point
For
is,
the most part.
one of the points, I mean, it's quite a few, but one of the points I think is strong on like the first century Christians and Paul. Like, Paul's not Marilyn Manson. Paul's just a Jew who's like, we're like, Israel's always getting beat up. Yeah, we've sucked sometimes, but we're gonna make it right this time. The law is the law. The same Jews who put Jesus on the cross, they were doing probably what I think any human would do if you believed in God. They're like Jesus basically is like a homeless guy, and he's like, "Hey, I'm God." And you're like, "Get out of here. We're gonna kill you, like, you maniac." And like, God can't do that. God never said he was gonna do that. And then Jesus is like, "Well, kinda, a little bit," but he's like, "It's not your interpretation that's wrong. Your hearts are hard." And you're like, "My heart's not hard." They're like, "Well, you're killing people. Like, you're kind of missing the context of it, right? Like, you're missing the kind of heart of the law. It's the letter of the law, and you're not kind of taking the time frames out." Anyway, he didn't say all that. So,
No, I don't disagree with
So
any of that. I think that the text lends to that. I think
yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
But I think Paul had this crazy moment. To be fair, all the apostles had a crazy moment, right? But Peter has a crazy miraculous moment. Like, if Jesus is truly God, Jesus was like, "Hey, before Abraham was, I am." All the Jews getting mad, but then for some to ponder, we're like, "Oh, this might be crazy, but this might be crazy cool," right? This might be like, I was expecting God to reveal it, but this like, he's right here. I wasn't expecting that, right? And he's doing miracles. He's healing the blind. He's healing lepers. He's healing paralyzed. He's rebuking religious hypocrites, right? And he's super mad about it. We want like shepherd Jesus and like nice little white Jesus petting lambs all day, but he's like,
Right.
don't do this. I don't like that. And they're like, I'm gonna kill you, just like I killed the prophets. And they're like, we still don't get it. And so, but like, then you have Paul. Again, technically not in a Marilyn Manson type mindset. I think he's just being a good Jew. Like, we're like, read the Bible. He read it. He like, I'm gonna put it in action.
Yeah.
But then Jesus is like, yo, I'm God, like they just said, just like in these prophecies. Paul actually chills out for like a few years. And I don't know what he's doing. Like, you would think like Jesus came to him, talking to him. That should have been enough. He's like, I'm gonna chill out. But then he does the extra step, which I think is validity. He talks to Paul and James. Jesus, for some context, I can't recall if it actually says this in scripture, but maybe at worst church tradition, be like, that's Jesus' half brother, which is also kind of weird. But It's like, why would
Mm-hmm.
you let this massive murderer in your fold? And then he does a completely 180, right? Like, there's no you would think that's where the friction would come again. Like, there's a friction from the Judaic to the Christian, right? Then the friction definitely should be like, Jesus just rose from the dead. Get Paul out of here. But Paul's trying to refute a bunch of false teaching. Like, why would you have that ally? So
And
like it's
and
just a thought.
no, I love that thought. Actually, I'm tracking with you 100%. And you've got like Paul over, because you got like the Paul school, and you've got like the James and Peter school. Because I'd
Mhm.
put like James and Peter in the same school, right? Like they
Yeah.
they seem to be like in Acts. James and Peter are like the leaders of the church, and James, if you take the book of James to be written by either James or at least followers of James, vastly different than Paul, right? So
Mhm.
Paul is saying, not by works of righteousness which you have done, but according to his mercy he saved us. James, faith without works is dead. So you've got like these, you could call, okay, and I'm so conflicted because I was a Christian for so long.
Sure.
I reconciled them in my head, but
Mhm.
it's conflicting. It's
Absolutely.
different. And maybe it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful mystery or a beautiful confliction. And somehow it's a yin yang.
It is, and it's so interesting because I think to your points, there are a lot of things to wrestle in with scripture. I don't think it necessarily hinges on like, well, just kinda guess and let it go. I think it just takes a lot of wrestling, which when I study like Judaic kind of practice, like historically, like that kind of how it is. Like even if you read about in Proverbs, maybe in Psalms as well, but it's talking like meditating, like it's kind of love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Like it's a very strong, constant thing, but it's a kind of mulling over. It talks about in Proverbs like um uh uh gosh, I need a Bible. It's not I say Bible. It's just so hard to find the quick context. I think it may be a
Yeah.
scientific thing
No,
with
but
the
we know
online
it enough
culture.
to be, if you bring up the reference, we know what you're talking
It's at
about.
the end of
We'll
Proverbs.
be
It says like the
honest.
King Lemuel. It may be like Proverbs 28. Like when it starts to go to like these little various kings, I get like a chapter or two, but it's talking about something, if I'm not mistaken, of like God. It's either scripture is like digging for gold or like
Oh,
God
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is
I know what you're
pleased with like
talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
revealing
Yeah.
himself to those who like really
Yeah.
try to find it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I know
and I
exactly what
think
you're talking about.
I
Yep.
think that's what that struggle is encountering. Like I think from an American, I don't know what you guys are. I'm an
We're
American, but
Americans. Yep.
there's we miss the boat a lot. I'm a mixed black and white American guy. I don't know anything about no Hebrews in the Old
Yeah.
Testament. Like I ain't
Right.
never sacrificed no lamb. I don't have time for that.
How do you feel about white Jesus?
Um, I I think it's a stumbling block, but I think to be fair, every culture does it. Like if you go to South Korea, you're gonna find Asian Jesus, you're gonna
Yeah,
find
that's
That's
black
fair.
fair.
Jesus.
That's super
Okay.
fair because you
Um,
personify that. Well, he's in your freaking heart.
Right.
yeah,
Whatever the heck
And you're made
religion
in
you
his
are,
image.
yeah,
he's your religion, or he's your
That's
nationality
fair.
or
That's fair.
yeah,
ethnicity because it's in your heart. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
fair.
You just
Yep.
can't tell grandma that. She's not gonna take it off her wall.
Nope.
She's gonna be mad at you,
Not
and
there yet.
you will be
R.I.P.
demon
Grandma.
possessed.
Yeah.
She would not like that.
You're a Satan worshiper if you don't love white Jesus, because he was
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
a
Yes.
white
Yes.
Middle
Yes.
Eastern man. Um,
So let me throw this out there.
yes,
Just
And
I'm
I'm
sir.
gonna
gonna take a page out of your book and I'm gonna pop up real
okay.
quick. I'll let you
I'm
take
gonna
it.
I'm gonna give you a just a thought
Mhm.
experiment. Okay, just a thought experiment.
Yes, sir.
What if? What if? Okay, what if Jesus, and this could be totally wrong, but I would challenge you to read the books of the New Testament in order, like
Chronological.
first and yeah, but by the way that they were written. So like
Okay.
First, Second Peter towards the end, Mark, or actually Paul letters, the 7 true Pauline letters, and even like again fundamental theologian scholars agree
Mhm.
that there are 7 letters based off of the writing style that were written by Paul.
Mhm.
There were ones that were called pseudo Pauline that were written after the Gospels. And a lot of it, when you read in like the church, like the early church fathers, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was the
Mhm.
Gnostics. They were
Mhm.
trying to prove things. Like there was none of this like in the 7 original Paul letters. There was none of this like Second Timothy stuff where like women
Mhm.
should not speak in church and cover their
Mhm.
heads. Paul
Mhm.
didn't say any of that. That was all in Timothy, and that was because we know from other church father writings that women were getting too loud in church.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, that's where Second Timothy all of a sudden shows up in the history context. So if you look at like the books of the New Testament and you read them and really read them in their own context, and it's really hard because when you read Mark for the first time and erase Matthew, Luke, and John from your brain, but just read Mark,
Mhm.
it's first of all one of the greatest books ever written. It's amazing. And by the way, that part where it cuts off and says this is not found in the original manuscripts, stop there because it's a way better book, and then read about why it wasn't in the original manuscripts or why it probably wasn't, right?
Yep.
But here's my challenge. If you read the New Testament like that, you might see a situation where Jesus was a brilliant, kind, like, I don't want to say Buddhist type because that's so cliche, but he was like Hillel, the rabbi that was like love first, because his mom walked down a road where she witnessed 2,000 men screaming and dying on crosses. This is 4 BC after Judas, not the betrayer, but Judas that overthrew the Herodian Empire, got attacked back, and the Roman legion crucified 2,000 people. This woman influenced both Jesus, and her sister influenced John the Baptizer. And they grew up in this like family, and he, in my opinion, became one of the most, I think, based off of the text that we can understand or piece together, he was one of the most kind people in the world. He taught this message, but he was part of that milieu, like the Essenes, during the same exact time where the Dead Sea Scrolls were written, that they believed that the apocalypse was coming. That time in 167 BC, where Daniel wrote that the Son of Man will come and just freaking wipe out all the people that are oppressing the Jews. And it was real. It was real to them.
Absolutely.
And I can believe it 100% because I believed it 100%, that there was a time very soon that the rapture was coming. And that's the way Jesus felt, and John the Baptizer, his cousin, felt. And he grew up like that. He taught like that. He brought people together because he was very charismatic. His cousin got beheaded, and it was devastating to the group. And in Mark, you really feel that. You feel like, oh my God, John the Baptist is dead. What are we going to do? And then Jesus, at that point, things escalate. That's when like the freaking temperature rises, and all of a sudden Jesus is like, we're going to Jerusalem. And at that point, his followers think, okay, this is it. Jesus is going to rally the troops. We are taking the Romans down. But Jesus is like, no, it's bigger than the Romans. I'm going to attack the Romans, but just like the Essenes in the Dead Sea Scrolls believed when they wrote the Habakkuk Pesher and the War Scroll, which I highly recommend you read the War Scroll from the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Habakkuk Pesher. They believed that the angels were going to fight with them. And by the way, the Essenes got wiped off of the face of the earth because they fought the Romans, thinking that the angels were going to fight with them. And that's exactly the same way I feel like Jesus' followers felt. The angels were going to come down. The Son of Man was going to come and wipe them out. And Jesus is on the cross thinking, well, crap, I didn't think it was going to come to this. I thought you were going to come earlier and wipe everyone out. But he's on the cross. And it's amazing because I believe, and I can be easily corrected by any viewer if they read Mark, that in Mark, the words are, why have you forsaken me? Because Jesus truly at that moment thought, what the heck? I thought you were coming down and saving everybody, and the Son of Man was going to save us. But all of a sudden, he dies, and that's where the screen drops. In the original manuscript, it says Mary Magdalene, and I think it was just Mary. It was Mary and one other woman, Mary and Mary Magdalene, come to the tomb.
So probably an
and
woman.
there's one man in the tomb in the Mark version. And then they are terrified, and it says they don't tell anyone, and they flee. Cutscene. End of story. The best Greek tragedy ever written, and it wasn't even Greek. And then what happens is, like, from there, you've got like the follower, like you've got Jesus's disciples, like thinking they're in a if they're in a cult, somebody says, "I saw Jesus." Now, can you imagine? Because they've literally, it says in the gospel, they left their families, they've abandoned their jobs, they've left everything, they've abandoned everything on the cause of this person.
Yeah.
And he dies, and you thought he was going to bring everything to an end, and then it's like,
so then why would you not want to have him resurrected?
So somebody says, dude, I think I saw him the other day. He came to me in a vision, or I saw him on the road, or whatever. And in a lot of the early gospels, they see him and they thought he was the gardener, or they see him and they didn't recognize him at first. And what's funny is in the Gospel of Thomas, they even say that Thomas, Jesus's brother, looked just like him, which I didn't draw your parallels there. Right. But it's like, it's like there's a lot of motive for these people that have given up everything and put their reputations and life at stake. If Peter came to me and I gave up, if I left Adele and because of somebody who said that they were the Messiah, and I had nothing, and I'm wearing the shirt on my back, and that's all I had. And then my friend said, "Bro, I saw Jesus yesterday. It was him, and this is what he told me." I'd be like, "Hell yeah, that I needed that," and I would run with that. And then what happens is I tell my friend that, he believes it, he gets stoned to death, and I'm like, "Sorry, Stephen." Shit. Stephen just got stoned to death. I'm like, well, now I'm definitely running with this. And you get this like movement. And then guess what? Paul, who had stoned Stephen, and I'm drawing easy parallels here because he probably wasn't the one that stoned Stephen, obviously.
I think he was there.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it. You see this and you're like, you see how this starts to boil.
They didn't have any food, so they had to be
entertained. I think, you have he has a really good tendency of telling a short story long.
I do this.
And he has
I think he's great.
He's a great storyteller. But I would like to flip it back to you for your thoughts, agreements, rebuttals, give you a chance to get in this conversation, because like I love my husband, but he doesn't know when to stop.
No, I think you guys complement each other very well. Like I
thank you.
Trust me, I'm not like, hey, I need this guy to be quiet right now.
I mean, he's on topic and he's not necessarily wrong, but sometimes you need to like.
No, it's good. I think your addition is really great for this platform.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's great. I enjoy the conversation that he has, because these are the things I would wrestle with, right?
Sure.
And sometimes I'll be like, even along in my faith still, I'll be like, well, wait a minute. And then I'll dig and I'll dig and I'll keep coming back to Jesus, right? But you said a lot of things, but I don't think you're necessarily trying to drive a point. I think you're just kind of like, well, consider this perspective, right?
That's just the perspective.
And I think it's still like the essence of that type of cult mentality. People lose their minds. It's a great old fashioned fairy tale. Something really bad happens. We need it to go well, and we just don't learn our lesson. Happened in Rome, happens in American slavery, happens Jim Crow era, Epstein files, all this stuff. But at the same time, the Bible's like, yeah, that's the problem. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's the human heart. The second thing, there's quite a few, but I think the two things that I've really been mulling over and thinking about. And I think you shared your story, which I think is a little bit. I was picking up pieces of like you growing up Christian, and it's a little bit of a battle, I assume, because I assume it's a level of nostalgia, but then also like, what the heck, and maybe some hurt. I don't know. That third one maybe not even attached at all, but
I agree.
Well, yeah, and we definitely have different
kind of things.
Deconstruction stories.
For sure. For me, my father's a pastor and my dad was an a-hole. And so when I was searching for God, I'd be like, it's definitely not going to be the Christian one. Yeah. I was like, it's not that one, because I didn't see that. And like he was abusive to my brother. Like it's very weird.
Sorry to hear that.
It was,
dude, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's weird because it was never to me.
Older or younger brother?
Older brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very
Okay.
weird. Like when you put the math, the
Do you
math
feel like
ain't
he
nothing.
protected you from it?
I think my mom did. I mean, I think when you're in an abusive scenario, it's very complicated for the person
Oh, it's
managing it,
always
very traumatic.
complicated.
But even looking at my brother, like my brother's not a Christian, but my brother will have my dad over with his grandkids, and I'll be thinking like, I wouldn't do that. Like I actively struggle with the scriptures of like forgiving. Like he didn't even do anything to me, but I'm like trying to forgive my dad for my brother's sake, and my
For
brother has no,
what he did to people you
yeah,
love.
he's not even in my psyche. But like my
Yeah,
brother
yeah,
doesn't know
yeah.
that. But I'll be like, hey, I know Jesus said you should, but you shouldn't because why are you even? But like
Right.
I
I
was,
appreciate your honesty with your journey.
yeah, I think that does make it complicated. Like I think even in scriptures, it's talking about like the Gentiles will blaspheme God because of how the Jews are acting, right? Like I think there's a context of, again, I think I said it earlier, but I think it is a weight of like if Christians were better Christians, it would make the message more acceptable to some extent, for some people. But and then when it goes really awry, it makes it really complicated. Um, and so he sucks. And so then these guys who ask me about this Bible, and I'm like, don't bother me with this. I don't want any of your grape juice or whatever. I'm gonna stop taking my money and not spending it to help people.
Your wafers are
And
dry.
you said what?
Your wafers are dry.
Yeah, your wafers are dry. Actually, sometimes the wafers are really good, and you try to eat a lot of
Sometimes they
them,
hit
then you
just
feel
right.
bad. But it's like, you get upset. You're like, it's not even real wine. Like, what are we doing? But anyways, like they asked me this, but these are the things that are on the table, right? Like I'm like the and what as I'm reading with scripture, I'm like, my dad didn't tell me none of this. Like you grew up knowing scripture. I knew like no scriptures, but then I gotta know all this because if I'm going to commit my life to this, it's like this says in
And
Hebrews
kudos to
4:12,
you because I think a lot of people
Big
don't
kind of
W.
just hear the sound bites and they don't like
absolutely,
dig into it. So
absolutely.
yeah.
And in Hebrews 4:12, it says the word of God is alive and active, able to split between soul and spirit. And do you guys know what the difference between a soul and spirit is?
Platonic or because are you talking Middle Platonism?
Like
Like
a
what do you mean?
spiritual sense, the soul and spirit, like what the difference is.
Define it because I can't speak to it exactly.
Sure, I will. I don't know. But the point is that like it's really sharp. I don't know. I don't know
It
difference.
must be
But
it must be
if it can
different.
split
Yeah.
between soul and spirit, it's something there. All right. Apparently it's two different things now, but it can split between them. But I think like the word can be a sword, like a sword can protect people or it can harm people, right? And I didn't want to use it to harm people. And but when I
Agreed.
think about the scriptures and a little bit about even as we talk, like you were given the kind of what if, which I think is really something good to wrestle with. But again, it points me back to one of the aspects is like, what's the motive and like, what are the bad things it's calling me to do? And it's like, I can't really find one. It's telling me not to be a hypocrite. Don't really be a religious hypocrite. Don't be a religious hypocrite. Like if you just look at the temperament of Jesus, like don't lust, don't be angry, sell all you have to be a poor, sell all you have, give to the poor. An American reader will read it and be like, I'm gonna sell a little bit and I'll help the poor a little bit. And be like, I don't think that's what he said. But the second part about this is like there's a passage. I'm reading Galatians now, and I'm trying to memorize it just for kicks and giggles, but
No,
something
that's
that
great. Galatians is awesome. Yeah.
and it talks about something very strong. Like the point is like it says that I think it's Galatians 5. But he says it constantly because Paul's like upset because like the Galatians, so other false teachers like
It's one of my favorite Paul books because he just pops off. Is that the one where he calls them the so-called super apostles and he's so pissed
I think
off?
so, and he
He's
wishes
pissed
people,
off at like James and
yeah,
Peter. He's like,
wishes people
these
would mutilate
so-called super
themselves because they're,
apostles think they're so cool. Yeah,
yeah,
I love
and
that.
it's but he's wrestling with this, and what he's wrestling with is something that I really think I've experienced, which I feel like doesn't have weight, right? Because then here I come a little crazy cult David, but like, um, what he's really trying to wrestle with is like them being free in Christ. But I think how I used to interpret this, even in my early Christian walk, and this is from a guy who wrestles since the beginning, like since I became a Christian in 2011, like I'm constantly wrestling.
I
And I keep,
appreciate the fact that you continue to question, by the way.
oh,
Like,
absolutely.
I don't disagree with the fact that you still have a belief as long as
Yeah,
you're like
I mean, I feel like that's not the sane thing to do. Like, if you're
Right.
honest with yourself, you
Agreed.
can't just, like
100%.
I feel the same way with politics. It's like, even though I'm a Christian and obviously I should love Trump, right? That's what all the Christians do. It's like, look at the
You
guy.
should not, because he has nothing like what Jesus would tell you to
Ob
do.
Obviously, right?
That's the part that I'm confused about. But that we digress. Go ahead.
But, you know, when
Please
people don't read their
continue to
Bible,
be
that's
this
what you get.
honest Christian who disagrees with that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you see the pride, the arrogance, you know, it's like, you
Yes.
know,
Like,
what's
The
his
utter
favorite Bible
disregard for
verse? He's like, all
humanity.
of them, you
so
know, like,
confusing to me.
yeah, who knows, right?
I mean, we have plenty of very dear friends who are Christians, and we do not hate the fact that they are Christians.
Yeah,
The
I
ability to
don't
have
think
conversations where we can question things and be honest
yeah. I
is
think that's quite obvious, and I think that's why you have such fruitful discussions. Watch when I
thank
hang
you.
up,
I
you'll have
appreciate
someone
it.
get
Yeah.
cursing you out in fire and brimstone, but
Here's what I would.
I mean, we are in hell right
Yeah.
now,
let
apparently.
can I
Here.
finish this real quick, though?
Please,
Absolutely,
please,
yeah.
please.
No, I didn't wanna cut you off,
No,
it's
no,
just
no.
like,
Go.
I know
No,
my
we cut
brain
you off.
will
It was
go on
me.
tangents.
I'm the problem. It's me.
No, but I think we have some similarities. I'll go on my story tangent, so we'll just never I don't have my wife here
No,
to
I
rein
love
me
it.
in.
Go. You're good.
He's talking about them having freedom in Christ, and he always starts his letters. He's like, "Hey, grace and peace to you guys." Even when he's about to like ream them ridiculously, he's like, "Hey, Corinthian church, God's people, grace and peace." He was like, "Hey, you guys suck, and you can't keep your penis in your pants, right?"
Right.
And then you're like, "Wait, what?" But in Galatians, he's talking about this freedom and this peace that Christ gives, and he's like, "You lose it when you try to get right by the law," and you're like, "Well, that's arbitrary and dumb, God." But he's kind of pointing to like as humans, we keep trying to get right with God by being good enough, right? Or why is our good enough not good enough? And it was even to the point of like, why is this random guy on this island who believes in his God and he'll cut himself to kind of appease his God, right? And it's like, why humans do that? We too smart for that. Like, you know, why do that? But I think that it kind of goes to a core of something. But what he's talking about in the law is that like the law was like a guardian at some point. He even like compares it to like Abraham and or Abraham's children, Isaac and Ishmael, which I always find interesting. Like even when you read in Genesis and like that crazy part where Abraham's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and kill my son today on this camping trip," and he's
Yeah,
like,
that
"But
is a
what?"
bit crazy.
A little bit crazy and
Yeah.
super traumatizing, and they're like, "We're just gonna
Right.
go next verse 10 years later." And we're like, "Hold on." But it says
Abraham had
very
the best faith, except for about like the fact that the child was going to be born. But
yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Good. Go
But,
ahead.
like, it's even then, it's very interesting because if you read in Genesis, it's like, you know, God's like, "Hey, I need you to sacrifice your one and only son." It's
Right.
like, Ishmael exists, like, I'm the younger son. It's like, "Why do you say?" It's like, "That's a little interesting," right? Um, but Paul is going back to Old Testament, not necessarily to that point, but what he's saying is like, there's a way to be made right with God, and there's a way to be made right with God with how humans think, right? And the law is representative of that. Like it's like we've all failed at this law. This is what came to me personally. I was like, kind of like this faith without works thing. This is not exactly what I think it's saying at all, but in my own essence, in my frustrations, in my faith, some this isn't the driving force, but some of unlike you, I don't like reading my Bible. Like I don't think it's a great story. Like I'm like,
It's a slog, man.
have
A
you
lot of
seen Infinity
repetition.
Wars? Like there's so many much greater things out there, you know? And
Yeah.
maybe I'm not a great avid reader, right? I just but as a Christian, I was like, I'm gonna read this thing because it's edifying for my own soul.
I mean, I don't read it start to finish every day, but we read a lot of it and we read a lot about it.
That's really cool. I try, but it's a struggle bus for me.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot there. It's a big book.
absolutely. But it's saying that there's a struggle, and I think in Galatians 5 specifically, it's like the law reveals our sinful nature. Even Paul is like, "Hey," he talks about coveting, and he's like, "I didn't even like start coveting till I knew what it was, and I couldn't stop." It has some type of restraint on us, right? If you think about even in our own lives, like I think you guys are good people, just talking to you. I think
Thank
I'm a
you.
good person, not from a non-God. If God doesn't exist at all, I think I'm a good person
Yeah.
on my own standard. Never did
Yeah.
drugs, not because I was cool. I wanted to do music and I thought it was like steroids. So that was my reason as a young
Mhm.
person. And
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want to do that. Uh, got drunk 5 times, never liked it. I was just trying to figure out why everyone else liked it. Only slept
Yeah.
around 2 times and didn't like it, felt dumb. It just never
Yeah.
really sat well with me, right? And I am a
Yeah.
person that I grew up in church, but like I was like, this ain't this. I don't care. Like I was just, it never connected. It wasn't any gripe. It was like I went to church because I'm the pastor's kid, but like I was 8, 6, 9, and my parents never shared the Bible with me. So like that part didn't connect. But it was like it's saying there is a sin problem in us. Like it's like if you even read the 10 commandments, I think the problem as Americans, like we don't really know what the law is applying for us, but I think it's trying to say like this goodness aspect. It's like, have you ever lied? How many lies you told? You're like, all right, well, trying to give you kind of like a fast forward into judgment day. It's like, well,
Yeah.
Jesus is like, hey, lust, if you've ever lusted, you've committed adultery. I'm kind of unveiling what this law says. Like, you ever
He
lusted?
took the law, to your point, he took the law and he upped the ante.
Up
He's
the
like,
ante.
"Oh, thou shalt not kill?" Dude, if you were mad, you basically committed the kill.
Yeah.
You
You're
shall
Jeffrey
not
Dahmer
covet
You
your
now.
had
neighbor's
enough
wife. Dude,
anger.
if you lusted, you covet. He took the law and he like upped it.
Absolutely.
And that's cool. I mean, that's cool. Like that's
But I don't even think, I mean, he did up it, you're right. But I think what it is revealing is that like that's the problem. Like it's not like, oh, shame on you, Israel, because you keep worshiping golden statues. There's a heart issue. And I realize this in myself as a self-proclaimed good person, right? And I mean that not to kind of
No, yeah, no, we catch you sincerely.
Yeah.
A
like
person, if a person can know if they're a good person and if they're being honest with themselves, declare it truthfully, obviously.
absolutely. But I also understand there's this essence in my own inner being in my heart, truly. Like as a married man, I don't stop lusting, right? Like it's like, but it's out of a respect of something, and I have to battle it. But why am I battling that? Like I am equally also satisfied. And then if I get angry at something, right? Like if we're going to put the law, I put the law to the test, and the more laws that I was aware of, the more I would struggle with them, right? And I was like, oh, this thing's checking out. Like that's the weird part,
So
right?
here'd be my question though. Okay,
Yep.
so like when during the time that Jesus was teaching,
Mm-hmm.
what Plato existed, well, Socrates existed 400 years before Jesus, actually 500 years. Plato had existed 400 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
There was like Confucius, like hundreds of years before that, Buddha, hundreds of years before that, Hillel, 100 years before that. He was the first person that actually put it into writing because unfortunately Jesus couldn't write, put into effect the golden rule. And so this concept of like loving your neighbor and being a good person existed way before Jesus. The problem that I have is this is that the stories we have from 722 BC when the Old Testament was written, or 600, from 722 to 167, the Yahweh was way different than those messages, but things progressed and things got more loving, things got more progressive. And so it's like, so here's my big question. If Jesus, living during a time when things had progressed and was in a more progressive society, could bring, I think, because of his awesome mother and teaching of his mom, like, could bring this message of love, but also brought up in a Jewish heritage with this tradition of Yahweh to the people, a new message, which wasn't, I say new, it wasn't new, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
500 years old if you go back to like Confucius and Socrates and Plato and Hillel and many others, right? We're not even talking about Zoroastrianism. Like how okay, so he brings a new concept, but like the big question is like why Jesus instead of why just of the culture, you know what I'm saying? Like and you can't
Maybe.
and I would discount the argument of popularity because
Mm-hmm.
Islam is going to surpass Christianity if
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at the trends.
Sure.
Hinduism's still popular. It's like why Christianity?
Yeah. Well, I love that question. I want to go finish my last point a little bit.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
But
Please
what
do.
Paul's talking about is there's a struggle. Like there even in Galatians, he's like, there's something that the Holy Spirit wants to do, something that your flesh wants to do, right? He's talking about this flesh thing, this hardness of heart, this sinful nature. And but I realized that to actually be true. I didn't want it to be true, but I was like, let me test this thing out. And I was like, oh, I'm out here struggling, but I wasn't struggling until I knew what the struggle was or what the law is actually saying about me. And I didn't know because I'm not a Jew. Like it's like I don't know what this says. I'm an American, good American kid. And it's like, and Paul doesn't necessarily disvalue that. Like in Romans, he's like, everybody has a conscience. We all know the right difference, right, wrong. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Now, my
Oh,
5-year-old, I was about to say, and they act like a 5-year-old and 2-year-old. My 5-year-old is actually abnormally very kind. It's actually very heartwarming. I was very terrified of having children, but he's super kind. And but I don't have to tell my children, hey, don't kill your sister. Like no one taught me that.
I mean, we have a 14 and 13-year-old, and we
Well, that's true. That then it changes. Then you
But
might
they're
have to say that.
technically
we're
don't have
lucky
to tell them
because
to
they're
not kill each
actually
other either.
we are super lucky. They are both extremely
Yeah.
kind people.
They're
Like
they're
Yeah.
very
like
kind
and they're
and
atheists.
intelligent.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
But
They're
But
questioning.
they never went to church and they're still kind. Like
no,
where does that track?
no, absolutely. But that's not what the point the Bible is actually saying. I think that's what we interpret over time, but it's like, no, you have a conscience. And what he's saying is like you have a conscience, you know right from wrong. Everybody knows right from wrong. You have a conscience. It's like the Jews are held more accountable because they have had God literally reveal themselves to them. Right? It's like what other excuse you got? Like you out here like every miracle, like American, Ethiopia, all this places. We don't really get the miracles like Israel ever really got the miracles if they happen to be
Right.
true.
They stopped.
And Israel's like, I'm gonna kill some prophets today. Now I'm not beating up Jews, but like it's like, well, dang, like what does it take, you know?
But that's the
But
thing,
it's
like how is that tied to Jesus when so do you just like write off the Old Testament because Yahweh was a monster? In fact, he was so bad that the early church movement or the early Christian movement, back up, the early Jesus movement, we can't even call it Christian, right? Because they
Mhm.
didn't even call themselves Christians. The early Jesus movement evolved into so many different ways that like they believed that Yahweh, not all of them, but like a large portion of them believed that Yahweh was like the demiurge, like he was an evil god that Jesus wasn't even the son of. They believed that Jesus was the son of a higher being that was above the demiurge, Yahweh, and
Yeah.
that Yahweh was so evil that why would he do all of this? Like, and the only reason why they thought that was because they were trying to reconcile you built this city on treachery. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm. You know, now the only fault I think, and this goes to me keep talking about American guy. When I read the scriptures, obviously we've already established I wrestle a lot. And I think the Old Testament does give you a lot to wrestle with, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't
That's
think you can just
honest of
read
you.
it.
Thank you.
I don't think you read and be like, oh, this is great. Like
Yeah, super.
obviously.
This is tricky.
Most people
It's tricky.
luckily peel off in Genesis because there's so many redundancies because the fact that
Absolutely.
there's like 3 sources, and
Absolutely.
that is a savior
Anyway,
unto itself. Go
we
ahead,
get
sorry.
it. We
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it. He's
Absolutely.
saying he's
But
acknowledging.
when I really sit, because there will be times again, you're struggling like, hold on, what about slavery? What about
Right.
why are we killing people? Like why we gotta do that? And then, but if I actually go back, but the problem is I never come to the conclusion when I just look at the verse itself or the chapter itself. I have to really follow along the letter and stick with it. And then it'll say it quickly. It'll like, hey, you gotta get rid of all these Canaanites, like they're evil. And like they're doing this. It was like it's Epstein's Island over there. You gotta get rid of them. But then if I skip that part, I'm like, bro, why are we killing Canaanites, man? They just
But like,
minding
what
their
did the
business.
kids do? Like, there are so many times when they wipe out entire civilizations, but like the babies didn't do anything.
Absolutely. And I've read theories about it. But again, I was saying I can't wrestle that as strongly because it's like I'm going through the Old Testament now and I wrestled it, but I don't have it's like things I looked at 8 years ago, right? And became resolved with it, but then I forgot because I'm just like becoming an old man. But that doesn't look
Well,
old.
but also like I think that there's a part of us as believers, and I was a
Mhm.
believer, that like you figure out a way to put it out of your head and you put it out of your head.
You have
No,
to.
I think
And I'm not trying to like misrepresent you, but I'm saying that there might be a part of us that like we see something that we have a question with, we find a way to resolve it, and we just kind of stow that away.
yeah. I respect that. I think we didn't. That's not fair to say. Really, I think for me, I got to it because I kept battling till I had something that had to make sense, right? And I don't say that just to kind of like make me happy and sleep well at night. But like what I realized, and a constant in Old Testament is like, again, I'm not Jewish. Like I'm reading ancient Middle Eastern a story through a modern Western view,
But
right?
you're not, because you're a person. So that's the thing. If God is of all time, is an ancient Middle Eastern person or woman, because let's be honest, we're dudes. We had it great. As long as we were like
Mhm.
guys, that's
Sure.
cool. But if you were a girl in ancient Middle Eastern times, and especially a girl that like wasn't spoken for by a father or was a non-Israelite or a non-anything, like if you found yourself in the wrong tribe, Yahweh wasn't looking out for you. And why? It's like, why wouldn't, and like as because we were talking a lot about ethics and you were talking a
Mhm.
lot about moral ethics, and I think that's the thing that really boils back to is that once I left Christianity, I could start thinking about humanitarianism and
Mhm.
ethics. I could start thinking, I could shed all of that, like, you know what, you don't need to submit to me anymore. I know that in a wedding vow, women are supposed to submit to their husbands, but I've seen like my
Granted, we got married on Taco Tuesday at a restaurant,
by the
so
bartender.
there was no one telling me to submit to
This was
nobody.
after
I
we
got a
left
taco
Christianity.
and a
We had left
margarita.
Christianity, but like
there was no washing of
my
feet.
aunt and uncle were an interesting case study, because my aunt was a very a personality dominant person. My
Mhm.
uncle was a very like passive human,
Mhm.
and they were both Lutheran,
Mhm.
and she ran the house, and my uncle was happy to do that. Now they were violating Corinthians,
Sure.
because who's not submitting to who, and it's like once you shed that old Bronze Age skin, it's so much easier to just think. And so it comes to that thing where it's like subjective and objective morality, which we kind of started with,
Right.
where it's
We're
like
finally kind of
objective morality is subject to the mind that has subjective morality. So if there's an all-powerful infinite mind that created the cosmos,
Mhm.
what it says is subjective to its mind. It thinks something, and that's subjective to its thinking. You are subject to a subjective intellect. So that's why objective morality to me is the most ridiculous thing ever, because I would rather be subject to reason and logic in the current times based off of our current knowledge, which I think is better than 2,000 years ago, versus belonging to a belief structure that is subject to the
that's a really
mind
good way to
of
say
a God that is subjectively saying something in the late Bronze Age, because that time period was freaking messed up.
Right. I I'll share this with you. This won't be exactly, I think, um,
And then we will give you the last word. We do have to wrap up after this,
oh, sure.
but we will give you the
Yeah,
last
no
word on
worries.
this.
Um, I'll say this quickly. It's funny because I don't think it'll have a lot of weight, and I feel like it's the same. You can argue this for any type of really anything. I'll say any religion. But I was severely depressed at some point, severely unsatisfied, and I think Jesus fixed it, right? Like no meds, no whatever. And I think what we get caught up on as Americans is this moral compass, and we miss the whole point. Like what the Bible's trying to say is that, like, hey, it's not saying that you don't have the capacity to do good. Like we're made in the image of God. Like there's a reason why you feel some type of things that you can't put a science book to, right? Um, it's not saying that. What it's saying is that like I'm giving you the law to show you how really the problem is, And like unfortunately, I don't know if it may be sounding cruel, and I don't know how to force it so quickly, but
You don't have
Hebrews
to be
1.
that quick. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, you're good.
I mean, well, you got 2 ramblers on here.
We do.
You're good.
I'll try to be the middleman, but I'll
She's
also
the
try to
referee.
step back.
She can ref this.
Hebrews 1 is saying that like in the past, God spoke to people through prophets, but now he's spoken to us through his son. Like God is like, I'm here. Like I'm right here. And I want to be close with you. I want a relationship with you. This is how you do it. Do you trust me that I am who I say I am? Here's the evidence for what I have. Can you trust it? And then we're like, there gotta be I was about to say, I was about to say something that you just said, but I wasn't even intentional. But it was like, I feel this way too. Of like, you got to do a better way. Like it don't make sense. But he's like, no. The problem is like you just lie too much, right? And it's like, or like, and you're not going to stop doing these things entirely because you know that it's wrong. But like you'll do it in some context. Everyone has a different struggle. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, God just hates all the gays. It's like God just hates lust, man. Like, let's just go there. It's like we just have a problem. And if we can't admit that we have a problem or really come to face with it, he's like, hey, all right, now you understand there's a problem. Let me help you. Like, let me save you. Like, and it's like, then when you really start digging into it, it's like everywhere. Like Jesus' name means like the Lord saves, right? Like it's like constant trying to redeem, trying to save. But when we talk about Old Testament, I've been going through the prophets. And so I'm not as well versed in the first 5 books, but I will say this as I'm looking for it. This is Ezekiel's chapter 16. That the whole point is like there's paradise in the beginning, paradise is lost, and it skates over it a lot in the Old Testament. I think that's why it doesn't really hold me. You may disagree because you love the Bible, I don't, but it's like it gets real bad. Like then, like a guy kills his brother, and it's like there's like what, like murder, like we didn't even like it wasn't like he got jealous or stole something, like we just kill it now. But then it just gets really bad, and there's a constant in Scripture that like societies start to get real bad when there's aggressive slavery, when there's child sacrifice, and there's like aggressive sexual immorality. And that happens for every time in Israel's case. And then you'll have things, then you go into that land and you try to curtail it. And then Israel goes and they take it even worse than the people they were from. But outside of that, because again, I'm not as well versed to walk you through that. But Ezekiel 16, it's talking about Jerusalem. Again, Israel messing up. It says unfaithful wife. And it says something that
Here we go.
Find something very interesting. Maybe it's in the 20s. And I'm in the NLT. I just think it
NLT is cool.
Speaks a lot better.
No, actually,
not a KJV.
I do actually think the NLT is pretty weak, bro. But it's better than the KJV. But
gosh,
hey, everyone can have their bias. It's cool.
I'm the worst
No,
Christian.
I'm not testing.
No, I know. I know you just give me a hard time.
It's fine.
No, it's in the 40s, 1649. So at this era, Israel has split because northern Israel is doing all a bunch of idolatry. And the problem wasn't necessarily, I mean, the problem is the idolatry to God's eyes, but then they're doing other poor morally things for these gods or whatever. So then you have Samaria, which was the capital of northern Israel. And normally when it speaks of southern Israel, it talks about Judah. But it's talking about Israel, I think, in this context. I can't go up as high, but I found this really interesting. It says, your older sister was Samaria, who lived with her daughters in the north. Your younger sister was Sodom. So he's almost being a little poetic here. But he says, your younger sister was Sodom. Even to this day, we kind of know about Sodom and Gomorrah, who live with her daughters in the south. But you have not merely sinned as they did. You quickly surpassed them in corruption. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, Sodom and her daughters were never as wicked as you and your daughters. Like he's talking to Israel. Sodom's sins were pride, gluttony, and laziness, while the poor and needy suffered outside her door. She was proud and committed detestable sins, so I wiped her out, as you have seen. And I find that interesting because I think Sodom and Gomorrah is like, oh, they just want to sleep around, and then this guy gives his daughter away. Like, all right,
do you want to know what I think happened? You want to know what? You know what? Okay. So this is about when Assyria took the northern tribes of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So Ezekiel was a prophet to Judah, the southern 2 tribes, after Assyria had been wiped off the map.
Mm-hmm.
And he was explaining to the Judeans that the reason why the northern 10 tribes got killed by Assyria is because they weren't believing in the monotheist God Yahweh, which was different from the time, right? So back then they believed in obviously multiple gods, and they were worshiping multiple gods in the northern 10 tribes and in the southern 2 tribes at that time. And he was saying, you basically prostituted yourself out to these other gods, and because of that, you got wiped off the freaking map. And so he was telling Judah, like, if you don't clean up your ways, you are also going to get wiped off the map. Now, the backstory of that is there were all these refugees coming down from the northern 10 tribes of Israel into Judea, and King Josiah was bringing them in and creating a one temple situation where it's like, dude, like like we're taking you all in, but if you're coming in, you assholes that were ruling over us, because the northern 10 tribes are way more powerful than the southern 2 tribes at that time, before then, you're freaking following Yahweh, and you're only worshiping in Jerusalem, which was our like capital city. So it's an interesting, like, it's I hate to say it, it's politics.
Maybe
Maybe
well,
not.
Well, I say that because, again, I have to read the whole chapter. But in this context, I see him directly talking to Israel, and I find it so interesting because he's holding Israel accountable. But he's holding them to something. I know that our gripe can be like a lot of, I won't say necessarily a lot, but there are sections that's like, that doesn't equate what seems eternally, let's say, for every society, everywhere, somewhere, right? Now, in most cases, I would argue that you have to do some digging to understand context, because or whatever. But in here, this is something that I think has an eternal value, right? Because again, Sodom and Gomorrah, I would argue maybe some aggressive sexual morality is crazy, right? But like, this is like, yo, Israel, why are you not taking care of the poor, right? Like this, he's so crazy. He's like, you guys are worse than Sodom. Like, this is terrible. Like, but you're like, well, what'd they do? The laziness.
So here's what I would throw out, and I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Especially Isaiah. So, and I don't know if you've like followed, and anybody who's still anyone who's watching, there's a lot of viewers still. Rabbi Tovia Singer has an incredible like message about Isaiah, and
it's pretty crazy because, like, as either atheists or Christians, identifying with a rabbi is a little weird, but Rabbi Tovia is an incredible source of knowledge and has an amazing content.
But the thing that Isaiah brings to the table, like Ezekiel and like Jeremiah, is a very, very powerful statement. And I would give you this as a token to take to future arguments in your favor. It is very Jesus-like. So Isaiah and Ezekiel have a message where, to your point, it's very much you're not taking care of the widows. You're not taking care of the poor. And that is why the nations are being wrecked. Now, there's also a huge, obviously, aspect that you're not worshiping only Yahweh, which is like obviously pervasive throughout the whole Old Testament. But I mean, that's a super solid argument, actually.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. You guys were fun.
I did too. If you appreciated this and don't mind giving us a follow, if we're live again, we would love to talk to you again.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be the one that says I have to call this. I keep leaning. I don't know if you guys have noticed, all of this is new ink, and I need to get a nice pack because I keep putting my hands on things and hurting myself. So I have to go ice my skin.
Absolutely.
We can't do this anymore tonight, but we will be back soon. We would love to talk to you again. We would love to talk to other David again. Anyone else who loves this conversation.
All the Davids are welcome.
That's right.
Other people than David are also
all
welcome.
The Davids unite.
But thank you so much. I appreciated your perspective and your honesty and genuineness.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Times 1,000. Thank you so much.
You guys have a great one.
Have a good one, y'all.
Thank you. Take care.
See you.
And thank you, everyone who was following in the chat. And please come back next time.